you don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 9th part of What If Naruto Enters Helluvaboss. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Bones Boy 15 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Her boyfriend just got upgraded from doof to suicidal dumbass. Luna felt her tail lash about behind her in irritation as he walked out to the street and held a hand up to her right, because she was planning to run out there and sacrifice herself for him? F that, to keep her back. Which she did, not because he told her, but because she had a F-brain. "You F idiot, what are you doing?" she growled lowly. He should hear he right, he was missing part of his F ear. She made to shout at him her voice was going to be so F-sore after she was done telling him off for his stupidity. And then they could get back to talking about how F-irritating it was for him to tell her what her emotions were without her permission when he shouted to the streets. "All right," he said. Hands up. Did he think this was a situation where he could surrender? As he stood in the F-open, she was going to watch her boyfriend die. Yup, that's exactly what was happening right now. "Your shot's really good, super impressive. I'll give up. You can stop wasting bullets and we can talk this out over a nice hot cup of ramen." He's dead. Just flat out dead. He's so F dead. He won't be able to boop her ever again. Or F her. Or embrace her. Or hold her. Or carry her home from the hospital. Or fix her adoptive dad's stupid apartment. The last thing she did before this started was yell at him. All she seemed to do was yell at him, and he still stuck around. Made her feel like she wasn't some beach from the slums of pride. Like she actually mattered. Like she could have an opinion. Why was she thinking about this right now, right? He was straight up about to die. And she wouldn't have that, any of that, anymore. The thought made something plummet inside and her BLD ran cold. A month was agony. The rest of her life, without boops, without violets and almost coconuts, without Naruto, SHT. Luna realized just then, I really, actually love this idiot. That's when she found her voice again. "Naruto, what the F are you do?" Crack. Her breath hitched as his chest jerked back and BLD splattered on the street and a log landed on the ground. What? The corpse of her boyfriend went up in a cloud of smoke. An obliterated pile of lumber clattered onto the street. "I'm killing him." She deadpanned as she slumped against the wall they'd used as cover. She covered her face with a hand and growled into it. "I'm killing him. I'm F killing him." Please don't. I like life." Luna whirled around, teeth bared and claws swung. They were caught at the wrist and the soon-to-be-dead idiot that was her boyfriend grinned at her. She quickly sniffed him, nothing artificial, so it wasn't a clone. "Hey, so, we need to go." "What the F is wrong with you?" "A lot." At least he wasn't completely oblivious. He held up a phone that was wrapped in several protective locks. Did he steal that from a display? When? How? And his smile fell. "Seriously, Loon, we need to go. Right now." "What?" "Databeo, Matha Effer." The battle cry was echoed in droves as a horde of clones spilled out of the store they were hiding behind. Hundreds, if not thousands of clones. Luna had to take that all in. Then looked back at her boyfriend whose quality of life was steadily increasing the longer he remained quiet as he released her wrist. He used the chaos of the emerged horde as cover while he scampered over to his phone's remains. Luna looked back to the horde of clones and watched the sniper panic. Crack, crack, crack. Yeah, judging by the scattered and rapid shots, she was pretty sure that they were panicking. "Please, please, please, yes." Naruto laughed triumphantly as he pulled out his ruined phone's SIM card. Then, he stuffed the ruined phone in his mouth and swallowed it. Right, her boyfriend was the Duke of Gluttony. She was in love with the Duke of Gluttony. "And I am in love with him." Luna huffed and pushed herself up from the ground. She walked over to watch him as he struggled with a security lock on the phone he stole. She rolled her eyes and tapped his arm. "Yes?" he asked, looking at her as he tugged on a string of the security line with his mouth. He growled and shook his head, unable to tear it. F-ish this SHT made of? Babe, drop it. Luna sighed as she held her hand out. He blinked and let the wire snap back into place before he handed her the phone. She flexed her claws and swiped them through the centerpiece. The rest of the lock fell away and she held the phone back out. Thanks, Loon. When he reached for the phone, she pulled it back and leveled him with a glare. His ears folded back and his tail curled at his leg. Oh, sure, walk out into a F street with an assassin shooting a F cannon at him and he's fine, but if he gets glared at by his girlfriend, he becomes a scared little beach. It's wrong that she feels so empowered by that, isn't it? Yeah, Luna thought so, too. Ah well, despite that, she had to lay down the law. Such a F pain in the butt. You are in so much F trouble. She growled at him. She jabbed him in the chest with the recently acquired phone. If we're ever in a life or death situation like this one, and you have a plan, you F share it with me. I'm not a F mind reader or vibe sniffer or... We don't sniff vibes. Because it F matters? Luna snapped and he flinched back. She shoved the phone into his chest and let him fumble to catch it. Once he did, she grabbed his face and pulled him in close. This doesn't F happen again, got it? Doesn't F happen again. Never again, he nodded. Good, she huffed. She pushed her nose to his and took a deep breath as they booped. It lacked the usual euphoric rush, but she blamed that on the adrenaline that was making her heart race. After a minute, it wore off and the reality of what she experienced when he walked out into the street sank in. She held him in place for another minute as she repeated a simple mantra. He's here, he's fine. 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 Loon. Another minute, she growled. We really have to go. A minute. Luna, I just stole a phone in greed. We have to go. Oh, what's the worst that will come of that? Jail time? While Lucifer needs him. Which means he might be taken away from her much longer if he's caught F. He really had to be so F-logical right now, didn't he? You're still in F trouble, she grumbled as she released his face. Her hand snagged his arm and she pulled him toward the RTS while he struggled to put his freshly acquired phone together. They were going to leave the ring before he got arrested for something so F-trivial. An hour passed before the horde was gone. A good 1,000 that remained from the initial attack on his base of operations vanished simultaneously in clouds of smoke. The streets were full in record time, partially because Mammon arrived at the scene and threw a SHT fit over a stolen phone from one of his knockoff stores. Greed's inhabitants loved their sin. After all, he made them rich. Boss, Bruce walked into the bullet-riddled room that Sergius was holed up in. They broke it. Sergius chuckled as he tossed the ruined remains of his carmine-crafted rifle down to the ground. Around him was a pool of empty high-caliber shells. All of this carnage, this chaos, and they vanished once they broke the rifle. I only managed to get 2 in my claws, and they died too easily. Are we continuing the hunt? Is that a F-serious question you just asked me? Sergius snarled. He turned to the lesser demon and stalked forward. He pushed his claws to his chest. I am Prince Sergius, the 5th son of Belieth, the greatest hunter in all of hell. My prey is not dead, and you think I would entertain abandoning this hunt. And no, boss. Good. Sergius gave his underling a cruel smile before he drove his fist into the lesser demon's gut. He sneered down at the hacking fish. Then you're not as F-stupid as you look. Get the F back on your feet. Get everyone packed and get the F-trackers back online. It has 6 other rings to hide in, and I want the one that it chose found. Why, yes. Yes, boss. Sergius snarled at the shark's stumbled flea before he glared out the window at Greed. You got lucky, prey. Someone tried to do what? The champion narrowed his eyes at the informant on the other end of the call. A low-tier analyst at one of Greed's news stations. One of his supposed offspring, so they claimed. Reports are still coming in, but there was a busted Carmine crafter rifle found at the scene. The footage shows, the Duke taking a hit. A good portion of his ear was lost. They pressed a button in their end, and their call screen shrank to play an angle of CCTV footage. The Duke and his beach argued on the sidewalk. Then the Duke whipped away and people screamed. He clutched his ear and pulled his beach with him, leaving a splattered chunk of flesh on the ground as he did. Find out who did this. He snorted and slammed his fist onto the arm of his throne. Who thought they could damage my Duke? I want a name. I want a body. Why, yes, grandfather. That's champion to you, Kef. Why, yes, champion. The call ended as he swiped his hand across the air. He glared down at the servants servicing him. That is not distracting enough, Zabuza. He grabbed the Oni's head and shoved him down. Strangled grunts echoed up into his ears, and then came the wet slop 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 as he assisted the servant. It wasn't enough. He rose from his throne and began to move. F Mothaf, they damaged my Duke, my prize. They best hope I do not learn their name NNG, swallow my essence, Elzebub. Take me inside you. He held the Oni flush to his groin before he started to move again. The end of the week could not come fast enough. One of the priority lifts to Envy was down for maintenance, because of F course it was, and the next one wasn't for 2 hours. They had to keep their heads down, and they couldn't get back into greed so soon after the phone theft. It was already on the F news. No suspects yet, and word on the shooting was surprisingly quiet. Weird, you'd think a house demon being attacked in another ring would make the news, so they ducked into a small in-station bar that wasn't too crowded. A small band in the corner played a light jazz fusion tune. A small corner booth that was half bust is what they decided on sitting at. She made sure to have him sit on the inside and used him as a cushion to lean against. They sat in silence, him likely unsure what to say while she proceeded to enjoy his continued silent presence. The longer he was quiet, the more time she had to calm down and sort through her metaphorical SHT. She loved him, that much she understood, or at least accepted. Did he feel the same way? She really wanted to think he did, but he didn't even consider telling her when he went to not get shot, and still get shot. Just bang, and he had a F hole in his chest. He took things too lightly. He could have F died. Well, he said, breaking her train of thought. Today was fun. Shut up. Luna grumbled. She wasn't in the mood for his stupid jokes. Would saying I'm sorry help at all? She pursed her lips. Would it help? If he meant it, truly meant it, and wasn't just saying it? Maybe. If it was just to get her to stop being a beach, then he had a whole F mountain to climb. It won't F hurt. I'm sorry, he muttered into her ear. One of his arms slipped around her side, and she let him pull her into a hug. His cool nose pressed to her head, and his lips pressed against it after. I'm sorry, Loon. I had an idea. Well, he was on the right track up until that point. An idea. She huffed and closed her eyes. She grit her teeth and growled. She wanted to yell at him for how stupid it was, but yelling right now was not going to help, and she was so sick of yelling. They'd been back together for not even 2 days, and they'd had 3 arguments already. SHT, they still had to finish one of them, but this was more important. Naruto, I saw you die. But I saw you die. She cracked an eye open to glare at him, and he went quiet. She huffed, leaned forward out of his embrace on the table with crossed arms, and closed her eyes again. It wasn't I know you didn't actually die, but I can't forget that. I have to live with that. I have to live with the memory of you dead in front of me. Not you. I don't know what you want me to say. His arm fell away, and it felt like an ocean suddenly sprouted between them. She was alone again, despite him being right there, despite his scent mingled with hers so close. Figure it out. She felt her eyes burn, but refused to let the tears fall. Not here. She wouldn't. Can't. A relationship is like teamwork. There needs to be communication. Your words, Naruto, not mine. He remained quiet, and Luna couldn't take it. I've got to hit the can. Don't go anywhere. She growled before she slid out of the booth and stormed to the restroom. She wiped at her eyes as she pushed through the drunks and tipsy assholes alike. It wasn't until she was safe in the sanctuary of a bathroom stall that she let the tears fall. F me for falling in love with that stupid BSTRD, she thought as she sat on the toilet. She whined and wrapped her arms around herself and pulled her legs up onto the seat with her. Her tail wound around her feet and her face buried in her knees. Her shoulders trembled as she saw that diamond sight over and over again. Crack. Naruto dropped, a hole in his chest. Crack Naruto dropped, a hole in his chest. Crack Naruto dropped, a hole in his chest. Just F stop, F, Luna whimpered. A bang on the door made her jump. Come on, Beach, if you're not using it for anything other than a drunk cry, then get the F out. Some of us gotta SHT. F off and die of dysentery, you washed up skank, she snarled. A hypocritically outraged gasp came from the red legs into hooved shoes imp on the other side before she ran off. The hellhound huffed and buried her face in her knees again. Crack Naruto dropped, a hole in his chest. Got him it. She whined and squeezed her eyes shut. He's fine. He's waiting for her at the booth. He's alive. She grit her teeth and brushed the wet tracks from her muzzle as she growled. He's just a F idiot. PFFT, ain't they all? The Beach in the stall beside her scoffed. The band stopped playing outside and customers grumbled. A lit doobie popped down by the stall. A bright golden band with Mammon's seal emblazoned on it around the smoker's wrist marked the occupant as a sinner. Want a puff? It'll ease the stress. F, whatever. Luna took the blunt in her claws and inhaled F. That's awful. She coughed and retched, but managed proper etiquette to hand it back as the sinner on the other end cackled. Oh, voice time with Mimsy Juana. I'd thought this stuff would spread further through the rings by now. The sinner huffed and audibly took a drag. The F is that SHT? Luna gagged. She stepped off of the toilet and whirled around to puke the nasty taste in. Ugh, it's so disgusting. And now her makeup was definitely ruined. F. What are you talking about? It's Mimsy Juana. A pinch of the good kush, wrapped within a delicious healthy serving of my minge. Oh, well, that explained a whole F-lot. At least she wasn't crying anymore. So, boy trouble got you down, huh? It's none of F. That's so gross, none of your F business. Luna gagged and whimpered. Great, now she was curled up on the floor by a F-bar's toilet and she wasn't even drunk. She could be curled up by her boyfriend right now, her living, breathing, stupid butt boyfriend. Right, so you ran in here to get away from Bele's shitty take on good music, the sinner chuckled. Try again, doll. It's none of your F business. Luna growled before it tapered into a whimper. Foin, be a beach. You try and help another girl out, and this is the thanks you get, Mims. SHT, my 15's almost up. You want another hit of this bad boy, or should I enjoy it myself? F no, your SHT is awful. Luna growled as she got back to her feet and stumbled out of the stall. She whined and hugged herself as she left the women's restroom. The sinner called after her as she left. Ah, you don't know what you're missing. Yeah, because Luna was all about being rushed to sloth to get her stomach pumped after huffing on some sinner's rank, unwashed, hemp-infected pubic HR. She coughed again and peered through the crowd. Perfect. He was still there, sitting in the booth. Alone, his gaze forward and locked on nothing in particular. One arm draped across the back of the booth with his hand hidden behind it, and the other in front of him. Was that a bottle of Beelzejuice in his claws? She subtly licked her lips. When was the last time she had any of that? She made her way back to the booth and sat beside him again. As she scooted back in to lean on him again, he lifted his arm from the booth. Was he rejecting her plans to keep close, to lean on him? And revealed a second bottle he'd hidden from view. It was offered to her and she took it. A mite too eagerly, but anything to get that awful joint taste out of her mouth. His arm moved back to lay along the back of the booth and she leaned against him again. He brought his bottle up to his lips and took a swig. 3 gulps and it dropped by 1/3 of the content. She'd be impressed if she didn't know she could drink him under a counter. If I say something, will you listen? He asked. Who? SHT. She had a feeling this was going to get heavy. Although, to be honest, the alcohol kind of tipped her off. She drank some of her own Beelzejuice, wow, strong stuff, before she closed her eyes and hummed. Yeah. Even if it's about my ninja SHT. I guess. I was an orphan. Naruto. F. She'd known he believed this, but it was too coincidental. Let me finish. His voice remained steady and, though his breath had a hint of alcohol on it, he sounded serious. Luna rolled her eyes and took a drink from her bottle of Beelzejuice, but let him continue. On the day I was born, I don't know why, I don't know how, but a giant 9-tailed demon fox attacked my village. Now this wasn't like the run-of-the-mill Cubine no Kitsune we have today. This it was on par with a F Titan. It was a walking, talking natural disaster. It leveled mountains and split oceans with a F flick of its tail. It killed a lot of people. He ran his thumb over the lip of the bottle, and the wriggler snapped against the wall as he growled. Including my parents, and the hero of the village, the fourth Hokage. He gave his life to defeat the fox. She furrowed her brow. She'd never gotten this part out of him. She'd gotten basic rundown before sad orphan backstory, because sure he was, and a few mixed-up adventures here or there. How he and his people were betrayed by his best friend that killed him, and how that best friend is how a fallen angel now. Honestly, it sounded like a terrible cartoon's plot. Then again, Luna had never really liked cartoons, so she was biased on what a Hokage was, and what the word meant to her boyfriend. He always went quiet after talking about them. Was this why? He sealed the fox into a baby. 3 guesses to who that lucky bastard was. He took another swig. And you know how awesome humans are whenever tragedy happens. Their hero was dead, people were dead, and the fox was gone. All that remained on a bloody stone was a crying baby. Are you saying they blamed you? She asked. Annoying and stupid Naruto could be, but causing so much death and destruction. Got it in one. He huffed, a sardonic smirk on his face as he stared at the bottle in his hand. Either blamed me for the whole thing or hated me for what I represented. What I reminded them of. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like they came after me with pitchforks and torches. Most of the time they ignored me. His grip tightened on the bottle. But I hated that more than anything. I wanted them to know what I felt. How lonely it was to be seen as nothing more than a waste of space and ushered away from others, given rumors and told I was always going to be worthless. Okay, either he's a phenomenal actor or maybe he was an orphan in a past life. Because Luna got that. Luna had felt that so many times, and then Blitzo came along. Then, I don't remember how exactly, I got the brilliant idea into my head that if I was the next Hokage, they'd have to notice me. They'd have to recognize me. He took another drink and nearly emptied the bottle. But I wasn't just going to be the next Hokage. I was going to be the strongest and the greatest. No one would forget us Naruto. What was that name he skipped over? She opened her mouth and caught the look in his eye. Maybe best to just drop that part. No one would ignore me ever again. Wait. You decided to get back at the people that ignored you, that abused you by inaction, by becoming their political leader? Luna snorted as she glanced up at him. His now pink ears folded back, the left one was nearly back to full length, and he didn't meet her eyes. One they'd write about in history books? Look, I was like 4 when I came up with it. I didn't say it was a great plan size. A year later my fallback was to become the ultimate prankster ninja. Despite herself, she huffed a laugh when he grinned. His smile fell and he played with his bottle. And the reason I'm telling you this, Loon, even if you don't believe me, he called her out with a look, and well, what the did he expect? It was strong enough to accept she was dating a Duke of Hell. Him being some reincarnated ninja was a little harder to swallow. Is to help you understand why I did what I did. Why I might do it again. He better not. She turned to growl at him, and he caught her off guard with a sudden boop. Bstrd, he was lucky it felt good and the music started to sound nice. His lips teased hers before he pulled back and cupped her face with his free hand. His thumb brushed over her cheek and his stupid pretty blue eyes looked so sad? No, wait, they were more, guilty. Those were guilty eyes. I really am sorry that I scared you, Luna. His voice was soft and gentle and so sincere she could practically taste it. I don't need to taste your vibes, which is what B and I do, for the record to tell that I did. I'm so sorry you went through that. I don't like scaring people. Startling and surprising for a laugh, sure, but not outright scaring people. And with the story he dropped, that made way more sense. He brought his muzzle down to rub against hers and rumbled. I tend to act before thinking. It's something I've never managed to improve on. But I'll try to do better at keeping you in the loop next time. Next time, Luna scowled. And he was so close to getting the apology right, damn it. She didn't want to be mad at him forever. He sighed and pulled back as his hand fell away. She almost wanted to drag him back down. Clone memories are processing. Part of why I got Beelzejuice. He topped off his bottle, and then ate it. Duke of Gluttony. She reminded herself with another swig of her drink. You're in love with and dating the stupid cute idiot that is also the Duke of Gluttony, who is now making a face like he ate something unpleasant. Does it taste bad? She asked around a snort. Meh, I've had better quality bottles. Mammon's just cheap, so we ship him crappy ones and overcharge him for them. He shrugged and leaned back against the LTHR booth they sat in. What was I saying? Clone memories were processing. Yeah, right. He rubbed his forehead with a finger. I've got 3,000 different memories of the same 50-ish minutes going through my head. A few met the F-er that shot at us. He shot you, not at you. Luna corrected him firmly. She was kissing the F out of that ear once it was back. She's pretty sure it was the one she liked to nibble on. Then she'd have to take him somewhere to get another piercing put in. So, you killed him? No, not even sure if I can yet. Not sure he F-shot you. Doof, Luna snarled as she dug a claw into his chest. He winced at the jab and then scowled at her. She scowled back. Don't make that face at me. He's a F-noble, Loon, he growled. Her snarl stopped, and she felt her tail curl around her legs as her ears folded back. A noble? F. Why did things have to be so F-complicated with this idiot? The idiot in question closed his eyes and huffed. Brother of a sin or not, regardless if I can kill him or not, that's a big crime down here. I know that you know that. What about him trying to kill you? Half the F-nobility thinks I'm just some hound that B took pity on. Naruto scoffed. He said as if his F-sister wouldn't kill for him. Luna had seen otherwise. Queen Bee might have claimed it was a joke, but she was certain that Blitzo was going to get permanently eaten that day. She wouldn't write off any future attempts either. In their eyes, if I bit the dust, no one really gives it SHT, but some entitled shitter who's born of a Goshen king. The rings would be ripped apart looking for the perpetrator. F-politics, what do? We get to envy and hunker down for the night. Then tomorrow, I dunno, he shrugged, opened his eyes and smiled at her. We take a walk down one of the beaches. Naruto, was he not taking this seriously? Loon, I don't like it either, but the best thing we can do is stay on the defensive. Ugh, she hated that mentality. It was nerve-wracking and irritating and, ugh, just so F-annoying. Her boyfriend put his hand back on her cheek and brought his nose down to tap hers. Another boop, and she was just tipsy enough for her to forget she was mad at him for 30 seconds. She could enjoy it. Enjoy him, them, their euphoria. She climbed onto his lap, straddled his legs, as the boop continued. She was just lucid enough to remember she was mad at him, so he wouldn't get more than the boop unless she wanted to. If it makes you feel better, I sent B a text before I got the drinks. His lips ghosted over hers and sent a spark up her spine. Her tail wagged into the booth and the wriggler slapped into the wall. Don't embrace him, he hasn't earned it. If she gives us the go-ahead when that son of a bitch shows up again, we can deal with him, she growled. He growled back and the temptation to embrace him was so strong. His claws kneaded into her hips as her arms wrapped around his neck. If B gives us the go-ahead, you can help me bury him in the F-dirt. Naruto growled, his half-closed eyes flashed white. Luna hummed at the thought of some well-deserved payback and finally pushed her lips to his. That sounded like a great way to cement an apology to her. Okay. You can do this. It's B, she'll listen. Vortex muttered to himself, psyching himself up as he walked toward VERYYYY's hotel room. He'd spent most of the day working off his irritation and anger in the hotel gym, and once he had a clear head, he realized what he had to do. He needed to talk to B about what he'd agreed to. To let her, to be okay with, he needed to talk to her. Wallowing in his anger wasn't going to help him any more than just letting it happen would. He needed to get across how different this was. It was one thing to wave off a rando hound that caught her eye. Usually she'd find a way to include him in the fun with that. Partner swaps, devil's threesomes, orgies, they'd done a lot together. B had never really asked him to sit out on a tryst, and while he had guessed it was coming, actually being asked felt like a punch to the gut. Turning down the potential THRSM or one-on-one time with VERYYYY in turn was probably for the best on his end. He was too hot figuratively, anyway, and SHT, he got mean when he was hot. Like, Bloodsport levels of mean. Maybe B just wanted a few rough nights like that. No, she didn't take the role of a subwell. At least, not from him or any of the other partners they'd had. Or she'd had before him. And now I'm getting F-horny. SHT. Vortex groaned as he stopped outside the door to the room his boss and girlfriend were in. Focus, just knock and tell her what you need to tell her. I'm not sure I'm okay with letting you have a THRSM with your brother and his girlfriend F. I have to phrase that better. He squared his shoulders and used the card key to open the door. VERYYYY was lounging on the suite's couch, watching some news on television. B was scrolling through something on her phone, an uncharacteristic frown on her face. He'd ask about it in a second. B, we need to talk. I'm a little busy with something. It's important. He frowned. She looked up at him, back at her phone, and then back up at him with a sigh. She flew off of the bed and landed at his side. All right. 5 minutes, I'm not kidding, this is important SHT. She gestured at her phone, and he saw baby bro on the top of the screen. He scowled. Since when is he more important than us? Excuse me? B arched a brow. She tucked her phone away as she crossed her arms. What is that supposed to mean? Look, I don't know what happened or what I did wrong, Tex said. He stopped and closed his eyes. No, I'm certain I didn't do anything wrong. I came here to tell you I'm not okay with you having that THRSM. That's it? We had a fight about it last night, Tex growled. A tiny voice in his head suggested maybe this wasn't the time for it, but he was too hyped up. I only conceded because I didn't want to fight anymore. Now that I'm standing my ground and telling you I'm not okay with it, all you can say is that's it. Babe, I've got serious SHT going on. Are you saying our relationship isn't serious? No, got him it, Vortex. They're playing the vid again, B, VERYYYY called. B growled and rubbed her face. She put her hands together in front of her in an effort to calm down and her eyes snapped open to glare at him. Look, I don't know what your beef with baby bro is about frankly. I don't give an SHD. If you just don't like him, or he just doesn't like you or whatever, fine. At least you both play nice, that's enough for me. And if you really don't want me to him and pretty pup, fine. That tanks, but I'll either get over it or him later down the line. B growled as she got spicy. Tex winced at the last bit. Lifespan differences was a taboo subject for most sin partners. Maybe that tiny voice had a point and he was unlucky enough to pick a bad time for this. Two of B's arms pointed at the couch. Right now, I'm too pissed off to deal with your horny, so go sit the down and watch the news with VERYYYY. And for sake let her give you a blow job. I'd handle it, but I have to play Queen Beach with the Gosha, because one of those swipes decided to take a Carmine-crafted rifle to greed and shot my baby bro. Yep, Tex picked a bad time to have this conversation. His life. He held his hands up and tilted his head to expose his neck. The SBMSN seemed to appease his girl as she huffed and puffed. Okay, alright, grand scheme, not important. Let's table the THRSM talk for now, then. He placated. B huffed in his face a few more times before she shrank and squeezed his ribs with a hug, her face buried in his chest and her ears folded back. He put his arms around her when he felt his shirt start to dampen. His ears flattened, SHT he felt like such a heel. Baby, it's okay. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. B huffed. She used his shirt to dry her face before she looked up at him again. I blame Lucai. He always lets the entitled F-ers get away with everything because they like to SCK his PP. He didn't know, nor did he want to know, if that was actually the reason behind why the Rs Gosha got away with so much heinous SHT. He didn't really care either. His girl was not in a good place, and regardless of their fight, he needed to take her back to that place. The little BSTRD's okay, right? Yeah, he and Pretty Pup are fine. It's just This has never happened before. Tex, I'm sorry about what I said. The span thing. He nodded, and she scratched his cheek the way he liked it to be. And about the THRSM thing, Vortex. You know I love you, right? She frowned at him. I swear I do. It's just a that's all it is. I swear that's it. And if I didn't think baby bro wouldn't go for a swap or a org or... B, he cut her off and smiled at her. He cupped her face, kissed her cheek, and then her nose. I love you, too, baby. We can talk about the THRSM after you get this SHT sorted out. And I mean talk, no shouting. I don't know. The shouting kind of did it for me. Babe, focus on what you need to do. Fine. She planted an embrace on his lips and he returned it. When they parted, she patted his chest and smirked at him. For real though, let VERYYYY give you head. I got to experience it last night, only fair if you get to, too. You sure? It'll be something for me to diddle to later. B shrugged. That was an image that really turned Tex on. She shoved him toward the couch and smacked his butt. Now get to it. I have a few calls to make and you smell distracting. Well, with an order like that, he walked over to a grinning VERYYYY. He gave her a flat stare. Just don't make it weird, boss. Oh, Tex. The succubus tittered as her tail swayed and she eyed his crotch with a grin. You know I promise nothing. After the elevator to Envy finally arrived, it was another hour-long ride down to the ring in question. They loaded in close to the back where, throughout the whole ride, Naruto kept his arms around Luna and a constant rumble reverberated through him into her. His tail would periodically wriggle and the urge to breathe was high. Why would this be the case, one would wonder, because she had him pinned against the F-wall and kept scratching his spots. This-ish torture, he grumbled into a whine as her claws caught him on his left spot. No, this is punishment, doof. Luna cooed, a cruel smirk on her face as she scratched him. He whined again. It really was, and it was of her own design, the clever beach. She was tired of being mad, had admitted as much to him, and he wasn't happy that she wasn't happy. Granted, when she suggested she scratch his spot throughout the ride, he expected a consistent scratch, something like B would do if she was getting back at him for being extra annoying. No, not Luna. She only had 2 hands after all. One had to hold her phone so she could take pictures of his face, and the other would scratch. Or wouldn't. It was sporadic and alternating torture. He couldn't even recede into the happy, blissful, empty mind space a constant assault would send him to. The alternative was more time with a pissed-off girlfriend, which, no thanks. Naruto might be stupid, but he wasn't brain dead. So, he suffered the absolute downside to his new biology, just so his girlfriend wouldn't be pissed when they got to the oceanic realm that the Envy Ring was. Is H not a thing? Naruto huffed and hawed as the scratches stopped for a moment. He let his head roll back and rest on the wall. This was worse than the time he experimented with edging Edgekelton. Side note, do not try edging with a knot. The knot doesn't like it and will not recede until something is tied. Preferably a tube sock or fleshlight, whichever has more space. Of course it is. She was having way too much fun at his expense. The scratches stopped and his muzzle was guided down so she could press her lips into the side of it. Moi. You are doof because, she dragged the word out as she started to scratch him again. You are my doofy orange fotches with the doofiest whittle sh mile. Not doofy, he whimpered and whined and leaned into her scratches. SHT, this one was going longer than the last one. The elevator had to be near Envy soon, right? He cracked his eyes open and his girlfriend looked so happy right now. With her half-lidded pretty eyes and little smile and the way her tail wagged into his leg. She was so cute. Her vibes have to taste so go. Don't do it. She doesn't want you to do that anymore. You risk extending the torture. Thank you, survival instincts. You save me yet again. Now, if you'll excuse me, the spot is being scratched. I must. Finally, Naruto whined as the elevator came to a stop. He slumped over her and not intentionally, but he wasn't complaining, panted into his girlfriend's covered cleavage. He tightened his arms around her as she stroked his head and kissed the base of his fully healed left ear. You are so evil. Thank you. She was smirking, he could hear it. Damn it, he wanted to taste her vibes so bad. A gentle pat on his head had him look up. Look alive, doof. We're moving. Legs are jello. He brought his head up to nuzzle her chin. Carry me. That. I'd sooner drop you on your butt. So mean. He huffed around a smirk. He righted himself from where he draped over her and let Luna move from her place as his support pillar. She grabbed his wrist before the mob of demons dismounting the elevator got too crazy and pulled him up to walk beside her. He twined their claws and inwardly cheered when it didn't get rejected. They stepped out to the envy ring and both immediately recoiled as the smell of an old rotted pier slammed into their noses. I forgot how strong the smell of dead fish is here, Naruto muttered. He gulped and then grimaced. Not even Luna's FBN vibe would overpower this sniffer-destroying ring. They shared a look. He threw a thumb towards the sloth ring's elevator. Skip this place and go to sloth? Yep. Luna nodded and led him over to the line where they would get their seats reserved. Her tail wagged and he felt a sense of dread wash over him. Maybe we can get the same seat location. I don't think you've been punished enough. You are vile. He deadpanned at her, which caused her to laugh. 2 hours later. That ride was not worth its weight. Prince Sergius grumbled as he stepped out of the private elevator and took a sniff. He grinned. Ah, I love the smell of decay. It means we're on the right track. Ah, boss? What, Bruce? I first know that I just got a signal back. Bruce held his phone up. The message was sent 10 minutes ago. It left immediately and went to sloth? Sergius cupped his chin and rubbed it. Unless one of them is PRGNNT, and I don't think either is, it must be trying to hide in the tundra. Humph, little does the prey know we know it is there already. This is fine. Let us board the next. Last call for sloth, last call for sloth. Maintenance on sloth will last 24 hours. Sergius looked up as the last lift to sloth for the next day closed. He pursed his lips and closed his eyes. This was fine. He could deal with this. He could make this work. Boss. Do not talk or think. Don't even breathe. He took a deep breath. Okay, get a hotel. We will give it a sporting head start. Thursday, the prey dies. A phone rang in the corridors of the underworld. It echoed through the darkness before a snarl overcame it. There was a crunch as a claw swiped down onto the table and broke off the corner of it. An uttered curse was followed by another claw swipe that successfully snagged the phone. Oh, who the F is calling right now? Don't they know how early it is? Serb snarled lowly as his brothers quietly dozed and obnoxiously snored respectively. He squinted at the number on the line and then grimaced. Gods damn it. Serb, we'd better be on fire. Herb growled without opening his eyes. That's the only reason you'd wake me up. B's calling us. Then answer it. I don't want to talk to her. Grow up. Serb whined. You're such a little beach, Herb snarled and let the phone be lifted to his ear once it was answered. B. Hey. Do you know what time it is? Probably time for me to get a watch. Deos. It's too early for this SHT. Herb growled as he sat up and then slapped Russ a few times. The snoring third head kept sleeping and Herb's blind eye twitched. If you sleep through this, you I will rip you off of our shoulders if you sleep on your watch ever again. Everything all right? Fine. Russ is just compensating for us. Herb glared at Serb, who pointedly looked away. He lowered his voice and put the phone to their chest and he growled. You just gave up 2 watch naps, and don't you whine at me, or I'll give you a reason to. But, shut the up and make some coffee, I'm up now. He growled and put the phone back to his ear. It's 3 B, what do you want? Sorry to wake you, Herb. I wouldn't call this early if it wasn't important. No, I'm sorry. It's not my turn to be awake and I shouldn't take it out on you. Herb huffed, another surly glare aimed at the other conscious head that tried to make a new pot of coffee with his one available hand. The queen bee had a terrible sense of timing as it was, but at least she was courteous about others' needs. He yawned and his ear flicked as he resisted the urge to scratch his head while Serb threw their brew into a coffee machine. What did you need that couldn't wait another 3 or 4 hours? There's a hit out on Baby Bro. I want you to find the person who put it out. Hira, help me, is that all? Herb groaned and used his now free hand to pick sleep out of his eye. The coffee pot could not brew fast enough. Is that? Did you know? About the hit? Yes, I knew. The coin Shith knew. Pretty sure everyone that sends reports to Morningstar knew. He sighed and glared at the pot. A slump on his left shoulder made his good eye twitch. I swear to the god, Serb, if you just fell asleep. You knew there was a hit on my baby bro and none of you didn't think to tell me. Calm your tits. It's not like anyone worth a DMN is going to be able to cash in on it. Herb rolled his eyes. His ex was such a Demeter in the making. Were it not for the fact he knew the Olympians only retired and didn't actually die, he'd be a little worried about it. There was a snarl over the line and he pinched his muzzle. B, for the love of the old gods above and below, grow the up. You wanna run that SHT by me again, but? It's too early for me to appease your ego, Beelzebub, he snarled back, reminding her exactly who he was as he did. Her growls quieted and he snorted. Look, the brat's a mediocre fighter, but he'll be fine, alright? You want details, Morningstar has 'em. Just let him get in the few scrapes he's gonna have and crack open a keg or 3 to watch the ensuing fireworks. A Gosha Prince shot at baby bro with a goddamn angelic rifle, and you want me to let that go? I believe I'm missing some critical need-to-know information. Herb deadpanned. She growled out a brief summary of everything that happened in the past day, and gods, DMN the brat's rotten luck. He glared first at Serb's sleeping head and then Russ, then at the coffee machine that was taking too long to brew. He dragged a hand down his face. It's too early for this SHT. God's damned brat. He better be suffering for this SHT. Despite what might be thought of the overly common occurrence, Sloth's mountain ranges were not always subject to a blistering blizzard. For a constant weather pattern such as that could be adapted to so easily by many forms of life. It was still frigid and colder along the mountains, compared to the bustled warm valleys where the medical hub of hell sat. The few shops there that didn't relate to Belfeger's profession focused mostly on the sales of hiking and other outdoor supplies. Many a family of greed had moved to the ring for such promising riches. Many more of them died for failing to put practice into their form of profit. For the natives of Sloth that saw value in the blistering bluffs that surrounded their valley, they made rental cabins for visitors to stay in. The space between cabins and locations varied. Ironically, the more expensive a cabin was, the closer to the city it would be. In the crux of a mountain path, adjacent to a series of plateau cliffs that jutted up the tallest mountain of the land, the Big One, it was called. Sloth natives were not creative. Shocking, isn't it? And several hundred miles outside of the city limits, just on the edge of where Hellphone services would function, was a cozy little cabin. To the right of the entrance, a kitchen with a stove and microwave sat at the ready, the stove light on as a pizza within slowly cooked. To the left was a table capable of seating 4 comfortably and 6 if enough space were invaded, and just past that was the entrance to a small bedroom suite. Within the heart of the cabin, a fire crackled in the pit at the center of the floor, able to heat the small homely vacation spot to a comfortable temperature. There was a series of cushions that surrounded the fire pit as makeshift seats. It was in these seats beside the pit where a battle of wills took place, while articles of clothing and jewelry were scattered about. Blue eyes narrowed as they stared into a pair of red, the former wearing a pair of loose shorts, a chain collar, and an white t-shirt, whereas the latter was down to a jumper, a shirt beneath that, a spiked collar, and a hint of something that hung off her hips under her own loose shorts, which were actually the former's spare pair of boxers. 3 cards were set on the table by a clawed hand. A subtle rumble echoed in the air, and red eyes narrowed, while a tail slowly swooshed behind them. Place your bet. HM shirt, and guilty pleasure. That confident, are you? Yep. The word was enunciated by a pop of the P. A blue eye twitched. All right then, give your tally. 3 sevens. Blue eyes narrowed into squints. Bullshit. A rustic tail snapped with a thwap as the 3 cards were flipped over. 3 sevens stared up at the players, 1 of hearts, 1 of diamonds, and 1 of clubs. A short white-gray muzzle pulled into a grin, while the opposing orange and cream-colored one scowled. How are you so good at this? The scowled muzzle grumbled as he pulled at the hem of the plain shirt he wore. Not my fault USCK at lying, doof. Luna smirked as she held her phone up. Do it right. This is going on the gram. When I suggested a card game, I was expecting more along the lines of strip poker, you know? Naruto huffed as he stood up and turned away from her, hands still at the hem of his shirt. Not strip bullshit. Less bitching and more stripping. I'm getting there, geez. No appreciation for strong work. He hummed. Can I get a beat or? Naruto. She growled at him. He was getting another session of spot scratches again if he kept this teasing up. It was bad enough they were too tired from all the emotional whiplash yesterday to do anything fun last night, and weirdly neither of them were in the mood this morning. It might have had to do with the fact that the fire had gone out some time in the night and they woke up freezing. That's part of why they started playing a sexy card game instead of doing anything dirty to begin with. All right. So excited. Strip, damn it. Fine. Her boyfriend locked eyes with her over his shoulder before he smirked and began to sway his hips. His tail flicked from one side to the next as he danced to a beat only he could hear. Then, as he slowly turned back towards her, he started to pull his shirt up and rolled his body with every inch of his natural coat that he revealed. As evident by the frantic swooshing behind her, Luna F loved it. She felt a warmth spread inside her from the core of her being as she watched her adorable dumb boyfriend play up his secret sex appeal. The cut of his abs that became visible when his chest curled down. The flex of his shoulders and deceptively powerful arms as the shirt was brought up. And the roll of his hips in his pelvic move reminded her of the view was gone as he tossed his shirt over her face. Hey! Luna pulled the obscuring cloth away and frowned at the sight of him back in his seat by the fire. He arched an eyebrow at her as he gathered his cards. What? I thought strippers were supposed to do that. SHT. She couldn't argue against that. With a disappointed huff, she stopped the recording and set her phone down. Her hand was reclaimed and she folded it out of view, before leaning forward on the back of her wrist to leer at her now shirtless boyfriend, who then cleared his throat, which, why? She was enjoying the view. He should be flat. Oh, yeah. Part 2. You're such a effin' tease. She growled half-heartedly at him. He smirked and winked back as he crossed his arms. Damn it, he had no right being stupidly cute and F-hot. Fine, doof. Name a guilty pleasure. PFFT. Easy. Gardening. He said, and Luna blinked. Of all the things she expected him to say, that certainly wasn't none of them. His smirk turned into a gentle smile as he shrugged. It's calming. Plants like to listen, even if no one else will. Was he talking about his supposed past life or this one? Did it matter? It sounded like he knew that as a fact, rather than something he'd heard about. The implications of that were just sad, like his eyes looked. Even though he smiled at her right now, his eyes weren't the usual bright blue she admired. They looked darker and held a depth of inconsolable to them, almost like the oceans of envy, or at least what little bit of them she saw. Was it the game? No, he seemed to be enjoying himself stripping for her and her in turn, even if she cheated just a little bit by sneaking a bikini under her clothes when they decided to make things interesting by adding layers to what they wore. He didn't know about it yet, but the look on his face when he found out would be hysterical or ego-stroking. Maybe both stripping for him. Which, yeah, she'd enjoyed doing that, too. That meant he was sad about something else. She didn't want him to be sad. Not when they were supposed to actually try and enjoy the time without a psychopath trying to kill them. She put her cards down and rose up from her seat. He arched a brow, but didn't complain as she moved to sit in his lap. Her arms went around his neck as he dropped his cards on the table, hugged her back and rumbled when she rubbed her muzzle against his. You liked my strip show this much? He asked. No, well, it wasn't bad. Just bored after winning so much. She pulled back to look him in the eye. Still sad, but why? His nose half twitched. She frowned and cupped his cheek. Something's bothering you. What? He blinked, and then he chuckled. He smiled, put his hand over the one she had on his face, and nuzzled into it. Nah, I'm fine, Loon. Her eyes narrowed. Yeah, he was definitely sad, and now she suspected that he was keeping up a facade to keep her happy. It's one thing to let her scratch his spot. The serotonin release from his adorable, doofy spot-scratched smile was on par with F-Sec. Luna would die on that hill as a makeshift form of punishment. It's another to lie to her face and think she'd be happy about it. She got enough of that SHT growing up in the orphanage, thanks. Said every soul down here that was ever anything but fine. Hit me with another bad lie. Really, it's nothing. I wasn't being serious, doof. It's something. You won't like it. Well, at least he didn't try to lie to her again. Are you planning on breaking up with me? She asked dryly. His jaw popped open and he spluttered. Flustered doof is so cute, she thought with a small smirk. She put a claw on his nose to quiet him. Yeah, I didn't think so. That's the only F thing I wouldn't like, so just spill it. What's bothering you? Naruto's pinked ears folded back again and he averted his eyes. Oh, he really thought she'd be upset? He could keep trying to lie to her, then he'd see her get upset. I want taste ibs gien. Babe, I can hear a mouse's SHT hit the floor 5 miles away and I still didn't catch that. Luna deadpanned. She huffed and lifted his muzzle up towards hers. Come on, what's so wrong? I want to taste your vibes again. Okay, that wasn't what she expected him to be so sad about. Wait, did he really stop doing that vibe thing when she told him to? That was SHT. That was over 12 hours ago. She expected him to start back up after the F sniper attack. Did they ever finish that argument? Does it have to be an argument? Part of her wondered. Maybe they could just talk about it. SHT, she threw the communication bit back in his face yesterday, and he was her boyfriend. She liked listening to him when he wasn't being too stupid, like running into a street and getting SH don't think about it, and loved it when he listened to her complain about her day. She did like talking to him. It's kind of an important part of being in a relationship. Why? Why what? Why do you taste vibes? What does that even mean? Luna frowned. Maybe she wouldn't be upset with it if she understood what it meant. I mean, B mentions it sometimes when she rambles. I mean, she did when she and Tex played that stupid prank on me. They what? Oops, that might not have been something she needed to share. No, don't growl, doof. Don't growl, F. He growled. It's not important. Loon, what did B do? Naruto, just, she hesitated as she rubbed her thumb on his cheek. Don't misunderstand, she was flattered he was so upset on her behalf. But there wasn't much he could do about it now. The prank was like 2 weeks ago, and she was over it for the most part. Granted, if she could get rid of the recorded evidence of any supposed compassion she had for her adoptive imp father, she'd be happier, but that was an issue for future Luna. First, let's talk about your vibe taste thing, then I'll tell you about the prank, okay? But they. Naruto, it happened weeks ago. You were still in the pit then. I was. His ears went ramrod straight. His lips curled into a snarl before he closed his eyes and nuzzled her hand again. The snarl fell, but the growl happened again, and she needed him to stop doing that. She was trying to make him happy, not let him make her horny. We are definitely talking about that prank, Loon. Okay. She brought her nose up to tease his with a small boop. Vibes first. He was curled up on himself and glared at the woods outside the manor. The woods that reminded him of home but weren't. Home was gone. The leaf was gone. Everyone was gone. Dead. He hated his small body. It wasn't strong, it wasn't fast, and it was so awkward. The tail was the worst part. It looked just like one of the foxes. It's dead. It's dead. He's free. Free. He was free. No longer a cage for a monster. No longer a demon child. Except he was. He was a demon now. A literal demon child. They were right, and he was alone again. And it never freaking listened to him. A finger pinched his stupid oversized ear, and he yipped, not yelped. He yipped, like Akamaru's dog Kibo would when they fought ... in the spring festival. That didn't sound right. He'd have to think about it some more later before he pouted up at the fuzzy bee fox that was his new sister. What's wrong, baby bro? B crouched down to meet his eye level. He frowned at her. You just pinched my ear. Because your vibes taste rank, goofball. She poked him in the center of his head, and he growled at her. She giggled and snatched him up before could try to get away. Then he was being hugged, and it was so cool, strange, neat, weird to have 4 arms from one person hugging him. What's wrong? Just thinking about stuff. What are vibes? He asked. What are vibes? B blinked and looked up. I don't think I've ever had to explain what a vibe is. Vibes are the way anything feels, like emotionally. And you taste them? Naruto asked with a tilt of his head. B cooed at him and his ears flattened. He was not cute, damn it. He was almost 15. Well, technically he would be if Sasuke betrayer brother friend traitor ally killer hadn't. Yeah, if I tried to focus on eating actual food all the time I'd never get anything done. Heck, that's how I used to be until one day I figured I needed to try something different. I think I was actually gaining weight. And trust me, baby bro, there's nothing cute about a fat queen bee, so I just walked around the ring looking for stuff to try and came across a party. I think it was a birthday party. Might have been a wedding. Anyway, there was this supper choice sweet taste in the air, and I thought at first it was the cake, but it turned out to be the vibes. I was hooked from then on. B shrugged. His head spun from trying to follow that rambling. He got a sharp poke in the nose that had him go cross-eyed and refocus. Anyway, yours are rank. So what stuff's got my baby bro so upset? Her eyes narrowed and her teeth gleamed. Do I have to eat another tutor? No, he cried out. He didn't want to be the reason people died. Yeah, the first guy got super creepy, but the other 6 weren't so bad. The 7th guy would have been okay if he hadn't tried perving on B. Cerberus didn't take kindly to that. No, this one's not as bad. Uh-huh, we'll see about that. Well, he tried. Sorry, tutor demon number 8. He'll miss your debates on ramen. No, he won't. If not that, what else is wrong? Just thinking about stuff. Oh, baby bro, you don't have to lie to me. We're brother and sister. We don't have secrets. B pushed her cheek against his and one of her hands stroked down the back of his head and he turned into a puddle of goo. SHT, he hated this the most. His nerves got overstimulated way too easily and his body compensated by going limp. Another slide was accompanied by one of her giggles. A sweet-tasting, sort of honey-ish thing slithered into his mouth with his next breath right after. He licked at the air and B gasped. Baby bro, did you just? You did. You did. Unholy FSHT. WHB was there, suddenly, in his face, and they were off the ground, and he did not like being off of the ground and spinning so fast. You can taste vibes. You can taste vibes. This is great. She smiled at him so bright and happy and honey-sweet before she pulled him into a tight, body-crushing hug error, and her face rubbed against his and wait, why did his face feel wet? There's never been another demon that could taste vibes like me. SHT, I'm gonna teach you everything I know. First lesson, don't try to eat Levy's vibes. They're disgusting and I'm 80% sure it's because they don't shower. He proceeded to learn far too much about the other 7 sins that day. He also managed to learn that his sister had a crush on Satan. When he asked Cerberus later, he found out that he knew and thought it was hysterical. Satan was apparently in the closet, whatever that meant. Baby, I'm up all night till I get enough. This is the phone number of Beelzebub. If you don't pick up, I'll have no choice but to keep blowing up your phone. Answer the phone now. When Asmodeus got a call at 5 a.m. from B, he was just a little annoyed, but ignored it. He and his froggy were in the midst of a wonderfully hot good morning F, and to get a call was not unheard of, but he'd call her back later. Receiving another call immediately after the first failed to go through was more upsetting, but again he ignored it. At the third call, he was pissed. It might be important. Froggy offered with an understanding smile. His extendo arm wound around Oz's neck in a wonderfully tight and love-lustful way, and the back of his cool metal claws stroked the Sin's primary head's cheek. I'll be here when you're done. You're too good for me. Oz purred down at his Love SXL assistant where he lay in his arms. Nah, I just got the right toys. A gentle pat and an adorable fanged grin was accompanied by a wink. Now sate that beach's appetite for your attention, because I want all of it on me. My little attention WHR. Oz growled and gave him a chaste peck on the lips before he pulled away and grabbed his phone. He stretched and sat up before he answered the call. B, do you know what F time it is? I know, Oz, I'm sorry. I just got off the phone with Herb, who still has a sexy F voice by the way. Like F I love Vortex. But waking up to Herb's voice always got my motor revved in the right way SHT, not the point. Look, a Gosha prince just shot at baby bro with a Carmine-crafted rifle, and I need you to back me when I go after this little F-er, so that Lucy doesn't get any F-funny ideas like sending back up to fight more F-angels for his own amusement. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oz threw the satin sheet aside and stood up. Slow the PP pump down. B? Oh what did what? One of your F-Chords princes shot baby bro with a F Carmine-crafted rifle. Oh, F. That was a F political nightmare in the making. He hoped it was a misunderstanding. Please, merciful wrath of that closeted Satan, let it be a misunderstanding. Is Naru baby okay? The little pissant shot his ear off. You tell me. SHT. He was officially on bee wrangling duty. Normally, he'd leave that to Vortex and Naru baby, but the former was just a hellhound and couldn't actually do anything if the queen bee went on a feeding frenzy, and the latter was the injured party in question. He rubbed his prime face while the right grumbled incoherently under his breath. The left took the phone. B, this is very important. Where are you right now? Raf, V and Texas hotel room, WH. Good, stay put, I'm coming. He paused and thought over his words. Froggy snorted behind him, and he pointed a finger at the imp. Don't you die. That's what she said. B beat his companion to the punchline. Oz groaned as one of his best friends and his secret F-buddy unknowingly laughed at the same time. Naru baby, you better appreciate all the effort I'm going through for you right now. Naruto and Luna cuddled together next to the fire pit. Their card game was officially over. Luna declared herself the winner, which, yeah, he couldn't argue against that, and they'd been talking about the Beelzebub gluttonous ability to eat, convert, and sustain themselves off of vibes. She wanted to know more about it before she okayed him doing it to hers again. He'd never spewed out family secrets so fast in his life. Her vibes were delicious, especially the FBN vibe. That SHT was on par with ramen. What's happiness taste like? She asked as she played with the ruff on his chest. He rumbled happily, and the wriggler started to do its thing before he answered. Depends on each person, the intensity of the vibe and the cause. Want to give me an example, or is this gonna stay vague? Sure. He racked his brain for a minute. The gentle petting and scratches her claws made on his chest made that a little difficult before he came up with one. Okay, let's say a greed-based demon just got paid for doing something simple, like a coffee DLVRY. Because greed is bitter, it will taste a little bitter, but because joy and variations of it tend to be sweet, it'll have a sweet twinge to it. So, it'd be like a vanilla latte. Not quite. Maybe more like a cup of old espresso with a dollop of cream on the top. And you enjoy that. It fills the tank. He shrugged and smiled at her. I prefer your vibe, though, always so sweet with just a bitter hint. Yeah, your happy vibes are definitely vanilla lattes. Doof. Her ears folded back, and he could just barely catch a whiff of no, be strong, wait for the okay. The tip of her tail made its cute little wag, and she kissed his jaw. What he thought would be a long peck turned into a series of nips, nibbles, licks, and shorter kisses along his jawline. His rumble increased, and his wriggler slapped into the cushion beside him. His claws gently traced through the fur on her exposed thigh, and she gave him her not angry growl. She said around her assault on his jaw and neck. Just had an idea. Listening. He growled out as his eyes went half-lidded. It was getting harder for him to focus. His BLD flow was prioritizing his second brain over his first. With good reason, her scent told him she was ready and her affection screamed that she wanted him. Worse than the impending irkton he couldn't stave off, the merciless assault on his was the way that her vibes teased his nostrils. As expected, the strongest among them was the FBN vibe as it mingled with her sweet and sour blend of lust. Wait, he knew the tickle in his neck. Don't. Whatever you do, don't do it. Be strong, just hold strong. It's not going well. He stifled the whimper that escaped his throat just a second too late, and as he feared would happen, she pulled away. No, SHT, but tips. God F damn it. Naruto, you could have been so F close to getting vibe rights back. You F good for nothing dumbass. Naruto, babe, look at me. Gentle claws had left the fur on his chest and cupped his muzzle. He let her guide him as he always did because resistance could end up hurting him. As he found out after that first date, that, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't so long ago down into a boop. Her scent was intoxicating, and the vibes that cling to it were right F there. Oh, hey, Luna lips. On his. Yes, 1,000 times all. Dang, that one was too short. Stop whining, you doof. She smiled into his cheek. Her lips ghosted along the fur and skin of his face before she found his reformed ear. A swift nip had the wriggler working overtime. I want you to tell me every flavor you taste of mine. Every? Don't get too excited. It could be a false alarm. Why was that claw leaving his face? Oh, That's why hot F, sweet and salty ramen noodles. Yes. Naruto whined as her claws trailed over his PP through his shorts. Loon, WH. You can taste my vibes, doof. Just tell me what each one tastes like. She practically purred into his ear. Her tail flirted up against him before she trailed an embrace back down to his lips. It took a minute for it to set in, but once he registered what she said, Naruto indulged his gluttonous desires with a deep, loud, and unapologetic sniff. I can't ever do that again, he thought with a small snarl. That would be abstaining from the taste of his girlfriend's delectable vibes, because the sudden reintroduction to his system gave him a very painful, very strong irkton. If not for the fact he'd feel the swell of his knot before it could happen, he'd swear he was on the edge of coming. He rolled to pin the gorgeous hellhound to the cushions beside them, covering her with his body as he did. He nipped, licked, tasted and kissed anywhere he could reach, primarily along her throat, jaw and clavicles. She moaned and her claws dug into his flesh where they could. The burst of pain did absolutely nothing to lessen the strain in his loins. It was only once she whimpered his new nickname, it was not going away anytime soon. He reluctantly accepted it that he remembered her request. She wanted to know her vibes tastes. He'd tell her. As many times as it took, whenever she wanted him to, he would tell her. Over and over again. Luna was in bliss. She didn't know what SWCH got flipped for her boyfriend, but she didn't want it to ever get turned off again. This was just one day without her vibes. No wonder he was so doting in their sex dream. Your joy tastes so sweet. Naruto growled into her ear as he nipped at the corner of her jaw. His claws pinched deliciously tight into her thighs as he ground his covered, but clearly iron-strong PP against her. She whined as he nibbled on the same hinge in her cheek. Like a batter of cream brulee ready to be baked, perfectly whipped and evenly spread. OSHT. He wasn't allowed to growl at her like that. Wait, what did he say? Babe, she gasped as one of his claws abandoned her thigh to come up and graze the spot on her right side. Her claws kneaded through his soft straw-like hair and her legs tried to wrap around his torso, but the one hand he had kept her from doing so. Yes, not he growled into their embrace. The vibration sent a pleasant tingle down her spine. She was going to combust. Their lips parted and his gorgeous eyes stared into hers with smoldering intensity. Your lust tastes sweet and sour, but it's the best kind of sour. Like a pitcher of lemonade on a hot day, the kind you want to just guzzle down. She growled back into a whimper when he ground against her again. He was doing that on purpose. FTs? Her cute, stupid doof. But the best vibe, the most delicious taste? He rumbled and growled into her ear as he huffed and scented at her neck. The one that gets me so horny? I don't have a name for it. It's like I've tasted it before, but it's not the same. A familiar but not vibe, you're familiar but not vibe. Tastes just like you. Sweet like your addictive vanilla scent. A touch salty that makes me come for more, and so hot. He pressed his lips against her throat and his claws finally released her leg. They came up and played with her still-covered melons. Yes, no. He was cheating. He was hiding one from her. He wasn't allowed to continue until he owned up to it. Her leg freed, she hooked it around the other behind his back and latched herself to his torso that'll stop him from grinding on her. Before she pulled his head away from her neck. Doof, the growl she wanted to make became a whine when his nose pushed into hers. Cheater, using sweet boops to derail her train of thought. Why was she mad? Something emotion secret. Naruto, no. He stopped on a F-dime and pulled his nose back from hers. Both of them were on the cusp of panting, his covered irkton still pressed into her covered though now drenched nethers. His claws braced him above her at arm's length, and hers cupped his face. The lustful blue eyes that had heated her core brightened back to the happy sky like orbs she adored. Granted, they were more concerned now than happy. Did I do something wrong? He leaned closer to her and whined softly as he huffed her scent. I didn't hurt you, right, Loon? No. She breathed around a small smile. She rubbed her thumb on his cheek. Why did she have him stop again? Right, the secret not familiar vibe. No, babe. Sorry, I just it was. That last vibe? The one that did unholy SHT. Did you say that it gets you horny? Did I really say that? His ears pinked and folded back. She snickered at him, and he hung his head with a groan. Damn it. That was not supposed to come out. Too late now. Luna smirked. She pulled him back down, her arms slowly hooked around his neck as she did, and her legs tightened around his sides. He groaned again, and the blues darkened briefly, before they relaxed when she stroked down some of the fur on his neck. What vibe is it, then? No idea. Really? Her eyes went flat. He shrugged, and they both hissed as that reminded them of the third member of this party. She glanced down at his concealed PP and looked back up at her boyfriend's face. It gets that ready, and you don't know what it is? I don't know every emotion's taste. B's way better at figuring them out than I am. The unspoken excuse of experience was left alone. It was too close to making an age joke, and Luna wasn't F-born yesterday. Her doof of a boyfriend sniffed at her cheek, and she hummed. Her tail wagged and thumped gently against the cushioned seat they were laying on. It's subtle now, but it gets stronger whenever we're in the moment. It's so good, I'd almost say it's F-addicting. Is that why you always resist? Luna asked, and her tail stopped wagging. Naruto frowned. She rolled her eyes and pulled away from him to glower up at his stupid cute face. Whenever I want to F, you always hesitate or triple guess it or something. Is it just because of the vibes? You don't want to get addicted? Loon. Or is it me? Was she just some kind of sec freak? She would not be surprised if she were one with how much trauma she had on her shoulders. The orphanage gets most of the credit there, but Blitzo deserved his own share too. Actually, yeah. She probably picked some of his freak up whenever he got drunk and sprayed down their apartment with his bitchitude. F. Was that a cliff her self-confidence was about to dive off of? Probably. Oh well, YOLO. Luna. You don't have to lie to me. I'm a big girl, I can take it. Luna. Okay, Mr. Growler has her attention. His hand cupped her cheek, and he looked her dead in the eyes. It's not you. I will always want you as much as, if not more so than, you want me. Your scent drives me crazy, and when I catch a whiff of it, I go DMN near brain dead. Your hips are hypnotic, and I get excited whenever I get to run my hands over them. Your eyes are captivating, and so F-appealing that I dream about getting to wake up and look into them again. Oh, SHT, this was actually getting kind of romantic. So, when was it going to get ruined? And your vibes are like endless bowls of ramen spiked with crack. There it is. At least it wasn't another assassination attempt. Her doof pecked her nose gently to get her attention, and he smiled at her. Yes, I know how weird it sounds, but I promise you that it makes sense in context. Please, don't ask for context right now. What I meant was that your vibes are already F-addictive. His lips pressed to hers, and yeah, all that warm feeling inside of her. The hot iron of self-hate she was building up. Gone. Melted. Looking at her core that wanted this F-fox fiend so F badly right the F now. She almost whimpered when the embrace broke, and she felt her eyes burn when he brushed some of her hair out of her eyes. I can't quit you even if I F wanted to, he whispered. He brought his head down to nuzzle against hers. Luna, I don't think I'll ever want to. That was arguably the most cheesy romantic thing anyone ever said to her. Which, given that he's her cute doof of a boyfriend that she loved so F much it hurt, was more than appropriate. So someone, please explain why she was F crying. FFSHTF, he was not supposed to make her cry. This big-hearted F doof. She sniffed back the tears that she could, buried her face into his neck and forced a growl. You're in butt. For what? SHT, she wasn't expecting to get challenged on that. Weren't guys supposed to be bad with tears? F. Luna, you've got to do something. Quick, think of something clever. You made me ruin my makeup. Clever, you dumb beach. Be clever, you didn't even put any makeup on yet today. Worth it. He muttered as he pulled them up to sit once more. His claws grazed her sides and held her hips. She nuzzled back against his head and hugged her arms and legs tight around him. The wriggler had been going nuts for a while now, and her tail was once more no better. He took another deep whiff of her scent. The warmth of his breath tickled her fur at the base of her neck, before he let his muzzle hang over the back of her shoulder. I love you, Luna. Oh, F. He said it first. Huh, didn't see that coming. Does she say it back? Because she does. She loves him. All she has to do is just say it. Say it. So help me God, she'd better say it or... You do realize you can't interfere, right? It would not only break the rules, but give away that I'm up here. But she has to say it back. She loves him, too. It's so obvious. Oh, you sweet summer child. Don't you realize how naive that is? Did she say it? They're really quiet. We'll have to review the tapes. But did we miss it? One of the observers gasped outrageously. Did you speak over it on purpose? Why the F would I do that? Because you like to tease me. Don't be so adorable then. My sweet, dumb, cute, sexy doof. Luna tightened her hold around him. Her response might have been quieter, but his rumble told her he heard it. She whimpered. She was so overstimulated, overloading, overwhelmed with how much she loved the fox fiend in her grasp, and nuzzled his neck again. One of his hands came up and stroked down through her hair. Her tail swoosh, swoosh, swooshed. His right ear, the inferior non-destroyed, non-nibble-able ear, flicked over hers toward the stove. He sniffed the air and then nosed at her muzzle. Pizza's almost done. M not F moving. Yeah, after that emotional dump, she was staying as close to her doof as physically possible. F, she loved him so F much well. His knot was right there, and she was still a little wet. Okay? What? Oh, right. He was just carrying her. Note to self, lean fox fiend equal stronger than beefy hellhounds, right? How did she forget that? Well, him being away for a F month didn't help. He stood up and carried her with him to get the pizza out of the oven. Well, that was one use for his Erkton outside of sec, helping one of his hands hold her while the other got their food from the oven before the alarm went off and deafened them. He set the meat lovers' pie they got in town and let the aroma fill the air. Food smells good, she muttered to her doof's neck, and it did. Her tail might be wagging a bit faster at the thought of some hot pizza with various meats spread across it. You want a slice? I want 3. Such a glutton. He cooed at her, and she nipped at the fur beneath his collar in retaliation. He laughed that off as he grabbed the complimentary pizza cutter. The first fresh cut drew her interest out of her boyfriend's chest, and she half twisted in his one-armed grasp. Slight mistake on her part. Luna moaned as something throbbed and bumped up into her from below, while Naruto sucked in a sharp breath. They looked at each other again. Noses pressed together and euphoria overcame them. A rumble and growl echoed with her growl. Her claws twined in his mane while his dug into her thighs and butt. Lips pressed together once and tongues quarreled. The quick battle ended with a draw. Food or F, he panted. You pick, she breathed. He paused and his brows furrowed tight. F. He looked cute thinking that strong. She indulged an impulse and began to embrace his stupid cute face. We could try both at once, he whined a happy whine, not hurt before he started to reciprocate. She preened under his affection and gasped when he nipped her collarbone. Sounds messy. The image of a sexy doof covered in chocolate syrup suddenly sprang to mind. Or doof covered in pizza sauce and spicy Italian meat. Weirdly hot. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Worst case scenario, we try out the shower after. She was sold. Leave the pizza cutter. Good call. Bruce? Yeah, boss. Why does our pizza have anchovies and pineapple on it? Boss, they're the best toppings to put on pizza. Do not start this fight. I'll die on this hill. You'll die in this hotel room if I find myself disagreeing with you. Bruce? Why, yeah, boss. Order 3 more pies. This SHT is delicious. Blue and gold eyes snapped open. A gray pup with a mask over his muzzle got to his feet and snuck over to the pack leader as he sat on watch. The leader's eyes remained closed and his ears forward as the pup neared. Steady was both of their breathing, and a flinch escaped the pup as the calm serenity of night was broken. The snow crunches even if you step lightly. There is a lone wolf in our territory. BLD red orbs cracked open, and the leader of the coin scythe looked at the gray pup from the corner of his eye. The same impartial, half-lidded gaze he always bore was leveled back at him. A gaze that doubled as a second mask, a metaphysical one to pair with the actual one that protected the pup's heterochromatic eyes from being read. And how, pray tell, do you know of lone wolves, young one? I read. Secret texts that you should not be reading. I listen. Lobo held a heavy gaze on the pup before he chuckled and reached out to pat his head. "Clever boy," he praised before he rose to his feet and patted himself down. "Go rouse the others. We will move in 10 minutes. "Yes, sir." Lobo watched the young pup shamble off toward his friend first. A not gentle kick in the gut got the mossy-furred pup on his feet before the two of them engaged in another challenge. He narrowed his eyes as he watched she work. "Just what are you so desperate to keep secret from death, young Kakashi? Who is it you are trying to protect?" "I love you, Naruto." An orange claw stroked down the soft gray hair on a hellhound's head. She sniffed the air before she settled back into his rumbling chest, and half-lidded blue eyes remained leveled on her. A dark nose pressed to the notch in her ear, and it flicked away once, twice before it settled against the cooler organ. Sweet vanilla wafted in with each huff. His own scent faintly accompanied it. Content wasn't a vibe he got to indulge in much. It was rare in any ring to find a demon that was content with their role in life. Even he wasn't content. He had no real goal to focus on like he did when he was a kid. Other than killing Sasuke, that is. Now though, as he stroked his girlfriend's hair, he felt that he was close to it. He loved her. Or at least, he believed he did. He wasn't an expert on the feeling. He knew B loved him like a brother, and he felt a strong urge to protect, care, respect her in turn. But the way he felt with Luna, he'd be repeating the same things he said yesterday. He's attracted to her body, scent and vibe, for sure. Any hound or demon would be if they had any sense. She had a temper, to put it lightly, but he didn't know a hellhound that didn't. She was guarded, heavily, and preferred immersion in her phone over the outdoors. Anyone could see that and write her off as apathetic. He knew better. She was curious and inquisitive, even if she tried to pretend she wasn't. She was clever and playful, even if that was buried by her brash personality. She was caring and just as sweet as her scent made her out to be. Around the ints she was guarded, but kept an ear on them, kept aware. She was smart, smarter than he was in many ways, and still eager to learn, if her progress in mystic arts were anything to go by. He could do without the specialty in cold magic, though. Yet, she loved him. "I love you, Naruto." It was only a whisper, barely even that, but he heard it all the same. She meant it, but she was afraid to, and he understood. Blitzo to her was as B was to him, a forced family. Guaranteed safety, love and care granted. She got a much shorter stick in that draw, sure. But it wasn't organic, wasn't developed. Blitzo picked her out of a lineup, and he was shoved into B's life. They both got it way later in life than they should have, and the loneliness would eventually break them. Just like it broke someone else he knew. If love is just a word, why is it so painful when you realize it isn't there? Despite himself, his rumble stopped, and Naruto closed his eyes as he smiled. Gaara was wiser in ways than most of the grown adults he knew would never be. He hoped that his friend rested well in the afterlife, but if it was ever within his power to make it so, he would give Gaara the chance to start anew here. They had a bond of burdens, a brotherhood shared only by 7 other strangers' enemies. At the time, and the Suna Shinobi was given such a SHT draw at the card game of life. If not resting in everlasting peace, then Gaara deserved a second chance. More so than even Naruto himself did. A rustle of the covers and a soft yawn had him look down into sleepy red eyes. They met his blue, and he was entranced by the vibrancy in their hue. The hound atop him smiled, before her ears snapped forward and she blinked herself awake. The sweet vibes she had bled away to salty worry. "Babe?" "Naruto, what's wrong?" Her left hand cupped his cheek and her thumb ghosted under his eye. Something wet was wiped away. "You're crying? Everything okay?" Oh, so he was. He blinked and chuckled before he used one hand to clear away the tears. Thinking of Gaara never brought up many pleasant feelings. "Just thinking about how lucky I am," he rumbled as he brought his nose to meet with hers. Boop. Life was better, the grass was greener, scents and vibes were sweeter. He would never not be in awe of the power of the boop. "I love you, Lune." Luna hummed into their boop. Her eyes were once more closed and her soft, bushy tail wagged. Her lips teased him with a quick peck before they retreated. "I love you, doof." "So mean." He chuckled and returned her quick peck with his own, before his eyes drifted shut and they rested together. Her claws played with his ruff or traced the Lichtenberg patch of cream fur on his chest, while his combed through her hair. They enjoyed each other's presence, and he suspected it was because they knew today was the last morning they'd get a chance to do so for some time. Tomorrow is when the semi-finals for the Elysium fights would take place. He needed to be there by tonight. Today was the last day he could spend with her before Lucifer owned him again. "Can we agree that pizza and sec don't mix well?" Luna asked, derailing his thoughts. He considered her question and thought about their brief venture into food-related sec play. Sure enough, they wound up having to shower, but that was a more entertaining time. Thinking about that started to get his BLD to run hot and oh, hey there Morning Wood, you're late to the party. Still, her question needed answering. Probably not. He shrugged. She plucked a strand of fur out of his chest and he yelped. Hey, what was that for? It was too long. Bullshit. He growled at her. She smirked at him. Her tail swoosh swoosh swooshed under the covers and her claws splayed across his left pectoral. Pizza and sec don't go well. She growled back at him. It wasn't heated. Well, the vibes weren't spicy. They were still sweet, and there was the hint of sour. I think you're trying to start a fight. So what if I am? You want to start the day with angry sec? Maybe not angry sec. She chewed on her lip. Would you be willing to try that Oreo thing? Or do you mean Warok? He asked. Luna nodded. He sat back and furrowed his brow. I mean, yeah, but why provoke a fight for it? I wasn't sure if you would, she admitted softly with a little whine as her ears folded back. Aw, she felt bad for trying to manipulate him. He smiled at her and held a finger up. With a plume of smoke that was more for show than actually present, he donned his Warok guise. Silly, loon. He purred at her. The smoky voice he crafted for this disguise made her ears darken, and her sweet scent and FBN vibes spiked oh so deliciously. His lips pressed down against hers in a chaste embrace. When the embrace broke, Luna was panting. He chuckled and stroked her cheek. You just have to ask. Babe. SHH. He rolled them and began to pepper kisses and licks down her face and neck. Her tail thumped against the wag as his shorter and sleeker tail swooshed under the blankets. He smirked as he snagged her pierced fit in his thinner muzzle for a quick suckle and purposefully popped his lips when he released it at her whine. None of that now. Mommy's gonna take care of you, sweet girl. Sweet F. She whimpered and panted as she met his gaze. He chuckled and waggled his thin brows at her. That's the idea, loon. The tundra of sloth was as frigid and cold as ever. His men's teeth chattered, bodies shivered and voices whimpered like kittens first born of the mother's womb. Prince Sergius ignored it for the most part. He needed the bodies to carry his equipment more than he actually required their presence. BB boss. Bruce shambled through the cold patch of snow to stop beside him and shakily held out a hellphone. It's why your father. Faye. Prince Sergius took the device and accepted the screen message. The phone pixelated and expanded to a majestic screen. A shadowed demonic entity glared 4 red eyes at him, and Sergius resisted the urge to roll his own. If he was ever claimed to be a showboating loudmouth, his father, King Belith, was far worse. Sergius. Tell me do I have 2 furious sins welching at my door? Well, I would suppose that it depends on the sin in question, father. Allow me to rephrase and specify then, my simple-minded son. Belith snarled the insult that washed over Sergius like water. Explain why Queen Beelzebub and King Asmodeus are intruding upon my home, in my domain, with claims that you are hunting a member of the former's house, by the use of sinner-made weaponry? Likely because I am, father. Sergius looked at his claws and chuffed. They needed a good sharpening before he was to engage the prey. Belith's shadowed form trembled on the screen before it went still. You will not be protected. Sergius bristled, as if he needed to be protected? He was the greatest hunter in all of hell. He did not need his father's money or prestige to get by. This was a very foolish decision to make without my counsel, boy. I would not have had to make it if you did not bend to the whims of a fallen angel, he snarled. Belith tilted his head. Is that what this is about? I obeyed my king, and now you are throwing a temper tantrum? This conversation grows pointless. I will have my prey, I will skin his pelt and hang it among my trophies. My worth will be proven. And if you die? Belith asked, glowing eyes small as slits. Then I deserve to die. Does this satisfy you, Queen Beelzebub? The Shadowed King turned the camera to bestow the appealing and fierce fury of Gluttony's queen upon him. Shadowed her features were, but the massive red eyes that filled the screen along with the glowing shape of her seal told him she'd heard everything. Good. He feared no creature, not of above and certainly not either of these F-whores that paraded themselves as sins. If by some F-miracle you kill my baby bro, I will make hell's worst look like a F-child's birthday party. Everyone will know of your mistake, F-er. You'd better F-pray that you don't survive. She snarled before she turned away and stormed out of his father's chambers. King Asmodeus appeared for a moment. 6 eyes stared into Sergius' emissive too before he bowed and left. Stupid boy. I had such hopes for you. Belith tutted. Consider my hands washed of your matters, now and forevermore. The call ended. Sergius snarled and crushed the phone in his grasp. He would show them. He would show them all. Set up camp here. He dropped the broken phone to the ground and then pointed at 4 open spaces of snow. I want torches. There, and there. Bruce, come with me. They walked a bit further up the trail as the rest of the Pride began to set up a base camp. Sergius stopped once they were about 10 meters away. He turned and put a hand on Bruce's shoulder. Bruce, we have known each other since we were in diapers. You followed me before I was given proper independence. You would do anything I ask, yes? Why, yes, B-boss, OCC course. I have an important request for you. The first part is if I do not survive. Boss. Do not interrupt. I am no fool, Bruce. I stripped myself of political protection. I will not be shooting at fish in barrel this time. Sergius chuckled. I will be hunting a demon from a house of sin. We might clash, we might not. If we do, the odds are not in my favor. It will be a glorious death. Right. I ask in that event that I die. You sell my things, trophies, weapons, clothes, sell it. You may keep the money, or burn it. The shark nodded. The prince smiled and clapped his shoulder. Good. And my second request, should I die or not, and father tries to reassign you. Why yes, boss. I want you to kill yourself. Why yes, boss. Good. Another day in their cabin in Sloth. Another morning spent experimenting, and making love. It couldn't be said she didn't know how to use her time wisely. Dressed in a comfortable long-sleeved rancid canine mongrel shirt that fell over her tight shorts, Luna lounged with her boyfriend, now back to his usual sexy doof self, dressed to impress with the outfit she picked out for him, and absent of the wonderfully curvaceous figure of Warok in the center of the cabin by the fire. She scrolled her feed. Blitzo posted a video of Fatty failing to got a hell pig, which was just so amazing she had to comment on it. VERYYYY was going to perform before the semifinals that filled her with mixed feelings. And Octavia's in wrath. Must be a whole family thing, neat pic. The F was that little red thing beside her? That's a Rathian dragon's chick? The FY was it naked? While Naruto dozed beside her. He put a lot of effort into their 3-hour session this morning, and she couldn't wait to return the favor tonight. Tilda Cot Ton can die. Cot Ton can die. Cot Ton can die. Tilda. FF in course. Naruto grumbled. His eyes remained closed as his hand dug around in his pocket before he pulled his hellphone out. His lip curled into a snarl as he cracked an eye open and read the text. Better be a good goddamn reason for F. F? Luna looked up from her phone. Got an update? We can kill the noble F that shot at me. Shot you. Not at you. She growled, now annoyed by the reminder that someone tried to shoot her boyfriend and that he let himself get fatally shot in front of her. Goddammit, it was playing through her head again. She turned in her seat. He draped an arm over her shoulder and rumbled and leaned against his chest while she put her nose in the dip of his throat to get a whiff of the faint musk that accompanied his violet and almost coconut scent. Still alive. Still here. Still hers. Tomato, potato. She growled at his blasé dismissal of her correction. One implied he wasn't injured. The missing stud from her chew, his ear begged to differ in that regard. The claws of the arm that draped around her scratched at her shoulders. Relax, Loon. Like I said, We've got permission to kill him. F good. Tilde Kot Tun can die. Kot Tun can die. Kot Tun can die. Tilde. Oh, another update. Thanks B. Naruto read it, and then his rumble stopped. They tracked his phone. He's in sloth. The hospital? She asked, almost hopefully. He gave an uncertain shrug and started to type out a response. As if the universe was designed to F- her hopes and dreams, she noticed a green dot flicker into existence on her boyfriend's neck. If she weren't the secretary for a specialized assassination group, she wouldn't have recognized what it was. Wouldn't have reacted fast enough to pull him out of the way of the sudden burst of fire that tore through the wall. I'm gonna go ahead and say he's not at the hospital. Naruto mused as they huddled behind the fire pit. If this were any other situation, Luna might have smirked. Unfortunately, they were being shot at and pinned down. Is he just after you? Luna asked. Before any F-er gets the idea in their head, she wasn't about to bail on her boyfriend. If the noble wasn't after her, she could try and slip around him in a flank. He better just be after me. He growled as he poked his head up and over the rim. Another burst of bullets had him duck his head again. Mothaf. Damn it, doof. Luna swallowed down on a whimper before it could escape her throat. He knew what that growl of his did to her. This so wasn't the time for it. She was a window broke as something rolled across the floor and dropped in front of the pit. A sharp hiss had both of them cringe before they covered their mouths. This is bullshit, Naruto snarled as he pulled his jacket off and used it to cover both of their heads. The barrage of bullets stopped and the hiss ended. They listened for 1 second and Luna heard very faint clicks. Her boyfriend put his nose to her neck and spoke softly. On my mark, we go to the bedroom. I'm going to send a welcome party out. Decoys. Smart. He held a hand up to count down from his 3 digits. A soft crack signaled a door being forced. 1. She adjusted her position so she can burst into a sprint. 2. Her fox fiend crossed his index and middle claws of both hands in front of himself. 3. She pushed up, and he was a half-second behind her. Teiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. More smoke, but it dissipated the potentially harmful stuff that was filling the cabin, as the bodies that were formed displaced even more. Claws scrambled across the wooden floor as Luna and Naruto sprinted for the bedroom, while the mob of clones ran out of the house with a roar. Naruto slammed the door behind them and shoved the dresser that doubled as a television stand in its path. What can't we live without that we need to find in 15 seconds? He asked, looking at their bedroom that still kind of reeked of sec. Luna scanned the trashed clothes and then back at him. It's just clothes. Your bikini. He started rummaging through the scattered bundles of clothes, the wriggler going full stop. She closed her eyes and rubbed her face. She loved him, really she did, but this was not a priority. Are you serious? She growled. Her stupid boyfriend had the gall to stop what he was doing and turn to give her a firm stare. Loon, he said, I will be so pissed if I can't rip that bikini off of your body again. ISHD you not. Doof. She growled. He rolled his eyes. Oh, it's a fight he wanted now, huh? Great timing, idiot. If they were going to die, it was going to be his fault, and went back to his search. She snarled. Don't be stupid, I could just buy another. The wall that the television and its dresser stand was once in front of exploded. She was knocked back into and through the stupid wicker-ish closet door. Oh, that hurt. The smoke cleared as a snarl she was unfamiliar with made her look up. A 10-foot-tall bipedal lion demon with glowing red eyes stepped through the hole in the wall. Held in one of his claws was a clone of her boyfriend, straining to break loose and suffocating as it happened. 3 others were biting and clawing into the demon's back, while a 4th was grappling the giant cat around the waist and attempting to push him back. The lion demon slammed the clone in his hand down on the one grappling him, and they promptly went up in smoke. The 3 on his back were pried off one at a time and shoved into various sharp, jutting pieces of wood. The lion demon snarled as he searched the room, glossing over her before his gaze zeroed in on what she presumed was his target. Luna followed his determined stare to where her boyfriend was. She bit back the whine when she saw that he was impaled to the far wall by a metal pipe through his right side. He didn't get killed by a angelic rifle. He was not dying to a stupid pipe. Clearly, the lion demon didn't think it was a dignified death either. for he stormed forward and shoved the king-sized bed out of the other wall into the blistering winds, and that's cold. Also, that's 2 of 4 support structures, and Luna never claimed to be a mathematician, but she was pretty sure that the roof chose that moment to let out an ominous groan. Ah, there it is. I tire of your games, pray. The lion demon grabbed her boyfriend's hair and pulled his head back. He received a glob of red BLD spat in his face and snarled. You are not dead, cease this play of possum and face me. DMN. That bad, huh? And here I was, aiming to win the next Sec XXI award. One of her boyfriend's digitigrade feet shot into the demon's gut, and the lion demon was sent out into the sloth blizzard. Naruto pushed himself off the wall. Consequently, the pipe came with him, and he growled down at it. Ah, SHT, that's irritating. Loon, don't watch. Yeah, so, despite being a hellhound, she's not great at listening to instructions. There was Blitzo's clause about when she absolutely had to close the portal, or should just listen to him, but that happened so rarely she barely even considered that. Oh, SHT. Squelch splurk. The slow twist and pull was not necessary, right? Oh, she's going to actually puke. Naruto, what the F? Hey, I told you not to watch F, he snarled and put a hand over the space where the pipe was once he finished pulling it out before he leaned against the wall and growled. A beat passed before he straightened himself up. I hate being impaled, SHT always hurts. How are you okay? Luna asked as she got back to her feet and came over to check on him. He arched a brow at her and tugged at the hole in his shirt. The F? She didn't want to see the O, right? He healed faster than her, because he was a duke. She stepped back. Hindsight, dumb question. I always heard there was no such. His right ear flicked toward the open wall. Oh, you've got to be kidding. I cracked his ribcage with that kick. Is he juiced on something? She followed his gaze and saw a speck running away from them into the blizzard. That seemed weird. The fox fiend brought the still bloody pipe over his shoulder like a bat and started to walk out of the hole. When he realized she wasn't following, he turned back and gave her an expectant wave. We might want to get out of the cabin before it collapses. We're going to follow him in the blizzard? Luna let her eyelids fall to give him a flat stare. This was not at all what she had planned for the day. It's that, or we lose our deposit when he comes back with a bazooka or something. Naruto fired back. She arched a brow, put a hand on her hip, and then gestured at the hole between them. He pursed his lips. Right. Isn't our stay covered by the Morningstar estate anyway? Look, you won't have to deal with it, but I'll still have to listen to the douchefers bitching tomorrow. And Saturday. He frowned and scratched his muzzle and thought. Actually, it depends on how long this whole festival thing lasts. All right, fair. Luna shook her head and gave the blustery weather a snarl before she stepped out into it. Ugh, she should have learned a spell or charm or something to block the cold from bothering her entirely. Here, kitty kitty, here, kitty kitty. Got a nice helping of whoop butt with your name written on it. Naruto called out as he and Luna trudged through the blizzard. He looked at his girlfriend. How are you holding up, Loon? Her arms wrapped around herself, she glared at him and promptly gave him a middle finger. He winced and his ears folded back. Yeah, making her walk through a snowstorm probably wasn't his best idea. Still, he would rather find this effer and put him down for good before someone found an argument that could save his sorry butt. He'd have to make it up to Luna somehow. A concert, maybe? Not VERYYYY, for obvious reasons, but maybe something on Earth? Incoming psychopath, 11 o'clock. Wa SHT, Naruto spun and swung out with the pipe to crack the lunging son of Belieth across the face. He landed with a roll and sprung back to his feet. Naruto arched his eyebrow. DMN, dude, I can't believe you took that. Doof, do not compliment the psycho trying to kill you. Luna snapped as she chucked an icicle spear F. Did she make that or find that? He needed to know for his own safety at the Goshen Prince. It was shattered when the prince swiped his claws at it. Oh, great. This is probably going to be an annoying fight. Yes, listen to your mate, pray. Beg for mercy. From Puss in Boots. I love that movie, Naruto grinned. The lion-like demon roared and lunged forward with a swipe of his claws. He bobbed and weaved around the swipes and tightened his grip on the pipe. Slash, slash, baiting, overextended swipe into a retaliatory elbow. Very good. Is everything a joke to you? What? No, of course not. He huffed at the thought and whapped the angry Goshen prince on the snout. Just you. As the lion-like demon covered his face and stumbled back with an anguished roar, Luna ran in and drove 2 daggers made of ice into either of his sides. He stared at her as she backed up to stand beside him, and she caught the look he had leveled at her. What? Where do you keep getting those? I make them. You ma when? How? I had a lot of time on my hands last month. She growled and smacked his arm. Now can we kill this effer? I still had something I wanted to do today. Oh, sure. Naruto nodded. He twisted the pipe in his right hand around and raised his right arm back. His eyes shone as the fur on his arm started to darken and grow. The already dark clouds rumbled overhead and a bolt shot down to strike the pipe. He snarled at the Gosha prince as the lion-like demon ripped the dagger-shaped icicles out of his sides and turned toward them. Eat lead. He launched the pipe so strong that the blizzard around them was disrupted and the falling snow cleared. The arcing electricity that primed the pole flash melted the snow along its path. A chunk of flesh and his right shoulder was torn from the demon's torso. His face went slack as he dropped from his towering height to his knees. I am Prince Sergius, greatest hunter, 5th son of... Oh, who the F cares? Luna snarled as she stomped forward and dug her claws into his skull. Prince Sergius' skull was flash frozen and his head was broken off before it was tossed into Naruto's hands. He stared down at it, the disbelieving wide eyes stared back at him, and then looked at his scowling girlfriend. Great, he's dead. Can we go get a new cabin now? Naruto's tail was torn between hiding between his legs and whipping around wildly. He dropped the frozen head to the snow and walked over to pull his girlfriend into a tight hug. Before she could reciprocate, he broke it, cupped her face and pressed his lips to hers. This didn't take long for her to reciprocate, and a brief game of tonsil hockey was played. He won. Huzzah! That's 2-2 before they pulled apart and panted. He grinned and pushed his nose to hers. Victory boop equals best boop. Naruto, I love you and our boops, but it's so F cold out here. Okay, alright, let's go find a new cabin to break in. He guided her to where he could tell fresh food waited. What? Did you think a member of the Sin of Gluttony's house wouldn't be able to find fresh food? That's on you. I really just want to get warm. Luna, I'm so F turned on right now, I will do F anything you ask of me. He deadpanned. Her ears perked up and she looked up at him. Her eyes narrowed, but thoughtful. Anything? Anything. Waroksek? I need more practice anyway. Analingus? Gross, but sure. THRSM with Enwara clone? Naruto hesitated and furrowed his brow. Okay, maybe not anything. You're at FTs. Look, bar that, I'm down for F anything. Then we need to stop in town again. We need lube. Okay? A lot of lube. For who? A lot of lube. Her hand slipped into his back pocket and squeezed. He gulped and the traitorous growth coming from above his butt wriggled in anticipation. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? Next time we go after a psychopath that's trying to kill you, don't drag me into a F blizzard. She growled as she continued to freely fondle his butt. Okay, fair? Lobo held the head of the frozen and deceased Goshen prince in one hand as he stared at it. Nearby, his pack went over a group of lesser demons that looked to have been ripped apart by a mob. He sniffed the head and the ice around it before his eyes closed. So, you are still alive. She lied to me. He crushed the skull in his grasp and his red eyes flashed as they slowly opened. I await our reunion, Paquina Luna. In all of the wastelands of wrath, there is only one location considered sacred to the imps that flourish there. Satan's Coliseum is a monument to bloody glory, vicious combat. The sin in question no longer visits it, given he's not big on crowds, but evidence of his presence is everywhere in the damage and decor. In a special observation box reserved for the more prestigious members of Satan's forces, a white-feathered princess spoke urgently into her phone. Is everything ready for tomorrow? She asked. A raucous amount of noise almost overshadowed the response that came through on the other line. Everything's set on my end. By the end of tomorrow night, your husband will have a third hole to breathe through. perfect. Now, do me a favor and do not let your bias get the best of you tonight. The speaker hissed. How effin' dare you? I am a moth-effing professional. I can keep my murder beaner in my effin' pants. Try and do the effin' same. The BSTRD hung up before she could get another word in. With a huff, she tucked her phone into her purse and her eyes scanned over the gathered horde of demons that were settling into their seats. The sins of gluttony, lust, and hell's very own prideful king sat in a box adjacent to hers. The lesser two sins flanked the king with servants, a clown-like imp and a garish burly hellhound at their sides. The queen's chair remained, once again, suspiciously absent. She made note to tell her brother of this. This was the 5th public event where Lilith wasn't present. She carefully watched her daughter settle beside the young child of her family's very doting host, and her eyes narrowed at the imp beside her. She didn't care for the little F being so familiar to someone who was vastly higher in status, but he was dutiful and professional. So long as he didn't cross any boundaries, he would survive. On the subject of imp-based infidelity, her husband seated himself beside the very loud, home-wrecking imp he lusted for. The audacity! She couldn't wait until he was F-dead. The loudmouth in question was preoccupied with bitching at a very disinterested young hellhound she looked vaguely familiar, odd that sat beside him, scrolling through her phone. The nerve of such filth being in the same viewing box as her made her BLD boil. Try not to F-froth at the mouth until the fights start, Princess Stella. Her feathers fluffed up in surprise, and she quickly settled them once she turned to the governess beside her. I beg your pardon? I know what you're planning, and before you say anything more, I will not say anything. I have enough SHT to deal with. The large, buxom dragoness sat in the specially modified throne and crossed her leg. Now, let's hope the buckets of money we dumped into this stupid event will pay off. I'm admittedly surprised by the turnout, Stella said, trying to withhold her sneer and conceal her unease. The governess of Wrath just admitted she knew about the hit. She could twist that to use it against her any time she wished. It honestly caused some mixed feelings within the princess. As am I, but to be fair, there is a major selling point. Ah, yes. Stella's red eyes glanced over at the sins box, where a certain gluttonous sin was throwing out buckets of treats to the crowd. Ugh, such a mess. She didn't understand how anyone could worship such uncouth behavior. However, this wasn't the place to question it. Queen Beelzebub quotes ... br other. Indeed, are you not acquainted? Lucia asked. Well, at least she was pretending not to know already. I am lucky to have been his first client. It didn't go as I'd hoped. Stella groused. So many paint stains were still evident in her home, and she'd not gotten any response from his company's supposed help center on how to clean it. Would you recommend his services? For someone of our stature? No, never. There are better bodyguards out there. She glanced at her daughter, who'd come more out of her sullen silences since the split happened. Octavia teased and smiled at Lucia's daughter, a gentle thing that made Stella's beak pull up in the hint of a smile. But he does prioritize well. HM. The governess of Wrath turned her gaze back to the arena floor. Well, if he survives the night, perhaps I'll have an offer to make. In his private viewing box, the champion of Elysium leaned forward in his golden throne so that his elbows rested on his knees. He nibbled on his lip and tried to quell the stir in his loins. The excitement and anticipation was getting to him, and the BLD hadn't even been spilt yet. Chained to the side of his throne by way of collar was his living Sec SLV, stuck in a kneeling position, within arm's reach for him to make use of when he inevitably would need it. Pay attention, dear Zabuza. Today may very well be the day I find myself without a use for you. He reached over and stroked the assassin's head, before he took a handful of hair and snarled into his face. Pray that is the case, for if I am disappointed by my trophy's fight, you will be the recipient of it. Noted. Zabuza growled. He narrowed his eyes. And what of? If I find no more need for you, I will return to you your cherished tool. The champion huffed and released his head. I'm nothing if not a demon of my word. Cameras swirled around the center of the Colosseum as a gas-masked sinner wearing a nice blue suit lowered down on a platform that came from the massive 4 Jumbotron hovercraft set above the main ground. He tapped his microphone a few times as imps, hounds, and other demons settled into their seats. There was a slight feedback before he spoke into it. Are we on? Is this live? Excellent. Ahem. The sinner held a hand up. Hello to all of you whores and assholes across the rings. If you can't recognize me, that's fine. I'll hate you later. My name is Tom Trench, and I am here to start this show. Crickets. Tough crowd. Ha, F of all you, he said lowly. He cleared his throat again. Ladies, gentlemen, and you non-binary weirdos that I'll never understand, welcome to the first ever hell-wide broadcast of Wrath's Elysium fights. That got the crowd of imps to roar. There we go. First things first, tonight, the semi-finals that have been a week overdue. Tom threw his hand to the large screen beneath the sin box. Let's get started. Time to introduce your semi-finalists. A number 1 appeared in the center of the screen. It rolled up to display a massive and disfigured great white shark's head on a very large and muscled human body. In his mouth were gold-plated teeth, and then a short montage of his time in Elysium played over the backing track of royalty-free One heavy metal music. Our first semi-finalist hails from the Pride Ring, like yours truly, one of the meanest moth-affs to make it through the annual Extermination Day, and an otherwise unkillable sinner. Tom ignored the chorus of boos and accusations of cheaters and held his hand up. The music and video stopped with a record scratch. Let me finish, goddamn. Y'all are more impatient than my aunt on prom night. Couldn't nut fast enough for her. As I was saying, he's otherwise unkillable, unless angel weapons are at play. And given we have noble BLD to be spilled, it's only fair that our competitors get some supplies. Steve, drop that sexy thing. From a panel near where Tom's platform descended, a metal canister descended to land in the middle of the arena. The thick obsidian chain that kept it attached to the Jumbotron hovercraft snapped free, and it dropped in a circle around the canister. The canister hissed and opened to reveal sparkling shining weapons that radiated purity. Fresh from Carmilla Carmine's own stock, the weapons our combatants will use to utterly butcher each other. Lucy, Bee choked on her food. Vortex gave her a pat on the back, and she spat out the half-chewed popcorn that choked her. She coughed and smiled at her boyfriend, who was her +1, and got his position covered by some of Lucy's more eager servants. Thanks, babe. Lucy, what the F? Yeah, I'm with B on this one, boss. Ozzy sent 3 frowns to the smirking king of hell. Guys, relax. I've counted and okayed each and every weapon that came in. None of them are those fun little projectile weapons, either. Lucy smiled as he leaned back on his throne. He stroked he had a fuzzy RBB duck in his lap. Right? Of course he did. I guarantee that this is perfectly safe. Would I lie? In a F heartbeat, Ozzy deadpanned. Is that a serious question? Bee snorted. The both of you can F right off, and I'll send you highlights later if you're gonna be like that. Lucy glared at them. Ozzy huffed and Bee scoffed before they looked away. Yeah, that's what I thought you'd do. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes, the introduction. Tom pointed at a far corner where a steel cage rose up, with the aforementioned shark sinner pacing within it. A royalty-free heavy metal song played. Weighing in at F, that's a lot of man meat. The man-eating monster from the wrong side of Cannibal Town. Give it up for Scaly Pete. Oi, it's Peter Scales. Yeah, F and Gimp reject. The Cockney voice did not match the burly manly 9-foot-tall physique, let alone the shark head that it came out of. He aimed a middle finger at the announcer, showing of his Morningstar Access Pass wristband that allowed the sinner to exist in a ring that wasn't Pride. Scaly Pete, everybody. Tom Trench clapped politely as the crowd jeered. Ooh, they were starting to throw SHT. He'd best hurry up. He pointed at the opposite space across from Pete, where a plexiglass container rose up with an androgynous figure within. The shitty heavy metal was replaced with a Middle Eastern electronica beat, and the screen flipped to show a green-hued gaseous creature emerging from the body of a dead demon via nostril and forming into the same androgynous male form that was in the cell. And next up, semi-finalist number 2. From the shiny shithole that is greed, it looks like he's a fart, I won't lie. He looks like a living fart. That's a horrifying thought on its own. Weighing in at how the F do you weigh gas, he is Gene Green. It's Thatham, but the hovering. I don't care, Tom chirped back with a middle finger raised proudly. He pointed to a different corner. The highlight reels showed a voluptuous succubus with a very long black-haired ponytail binding, FSTNG, electrocuting and stomping her way through the lucky effers that is, her victims. The music changed into a club bop 3 and around the arena, and across the rings, many had to adjust themselves where they sat as the hottest pop star in hell's voice echoed out of the speakers. I save PP by giving it CPR . As the cage rose, the succubus inside rolled her butt into one of the walls, essentially flossing the space between her cheeks. Then she bent forward, legs fully extended, to grab her ankles and her tail traced up her stomach to her mouth. Tom pulled at his collar. From the ring of lust, the seductress we all want to get stepped on by. Oh, don't lie to yourselves, he shouted at the few in the crowd that booed at him. Effin' prudes. Alright, for the rest of us who don't care if our significant others can hear us, give it up for on your knees. Whistles and cheers came from the crowd as the buxom succubus straightened up and sucked on 2 fingers, pulled them out, and then made a peace sign that she then stuck her tongue between and started to vigorously lick. Oh, it's that FWHR. VERYYYY groaned as she sat back in her seat in her tour bus just outside of the Colosseum. She was offered a chance to sit with B and Tex in the sin box, but if Oz and Lucifer were going to be there, she didn't want to risk getting either of her F-buddies/friends in trouble. Now she was super thrilled she didn't join them. This beach used to think herself the queen of cocksucking back in the day. SHT, if she knew this beach was using the song she covered for the Cheers to Cockteases and Cumbuckets tour, the second worst mistake of her early career. With the first being her hiring of Blitzo, she wouldn't have accepted doing the downtime show tonight. I thought her name was Aquino, Milky mused. That's what she was going by before, anyway. Must have changed it. VERYYYY hummed and then sat up when the last participant was introduced. Oh, yes. You are so thirsty for this guy. Ace teased as he poked her melons. She glared at him. It's the FVD thing, she hissed and crossed her arms. Her crew jeered at her. I got too hyper-focused on it, alright? I just need to rock his world once, and I can get back to actually enjoying sec with other people. You didn't enjoy giving Tex a beach? Apple asked, slightly aghast. Of course, I did. He's a good boy and works so strong. It was great to pay him back and finally get a taste of his nuts. Golf ball, by the way, so Milky won that bet. VERYYYY waved her hand. The pleasantly plump succubus threw her hands up in victory as others threw their snacks at her with mock boos. VERYYYY smirked at the play before she sighed. I just couldn't rub one out before he finished. Poor baby, I've been there. Josh threw his arm around her shoulders. You know what'll help with that? What? A healthy, thick, creamy serving of get the F over it. It's just a PP. You catty slut, VERYYYY laughed and shoved him back to his fiancée, while the rest of her crew's laughter filled the bus. She smirked and then looked back at the semi-final star. She bit her lip. Yeah, she'd get that PP eventually. Luna drummed her fingers on her arm and her tail flicked as she quietly growled. Yeah, the use of the remix Mayday covered last year was nice, but this slot was going to get hit strong if she tried any of the SHT she did in that highlight reel on her boyfriend. Especially since they discovered how he felt about getting topped yesterday. She needed a few more sessions with him on his knees in front of her. If she could ease him into experimenting with his Oreo self, that THRSM she wanted would happen. Geez, look at that hot little piece of butt. Blitzo muttered beside her, derailing her train of thought and making her GG. He elbowed her and waggled his brows. Bet she's wearing those knee pads all the time, and not just here, eh? Elbow me again, Blitzo. I dare you. A distorted gurgle and groan echoed throughout the Colosseum before a hair metal riff was played on a guitar. A vocalized "oh" echoed along with the riff as the highlight reel started up. Luna's ear twitched. She knew this song. Every hellhound worth their salt did to some extent. When I see what I want, I'm gonna take it, flashed between clips of the Duke of Gluttony's performance in Elysium, something Luna had mixed feelings on seeing. The most recent brush with a sniper was still fresh in her mind was the seal of Lesbub, and underlaid beneath that was a red spiral that slowly turned with the seal. If it's against the law, you can bet I'm gonna break it, He hung a harpie by her own flaming WHP and F. Did he punch that hound's jaw off? Could he do that all the time, or was it an adrenaline thing? Whoa, SHT, what did he just do with that sword? That's gotta be effin' edited, right? Blitzo gulped as they watched a clip of Naruto biting through first the sword of and then the head off of an imp samurai. With SHT actors? Really, well-paid SHT actors? Blitzy, you do know that he's a literal Duke of Hell, don't you? Thank you, Stolas, but Luna had a feeling he wasn't listening. Or going to remember any of this. Tilda my need to feed gives me the will to survive. I gotta find it fast, to keep me ollie I've Tilda. SHT, she just remembered how much she liked the way he looked when he was covered in BLD that wasn't his. Her thighs rubbed together and she chewed her lip. If she could manage it, she was going to corner him before the end of the night and get knotted. Maybe she had an addictive personality. Nah, this had to be normal. She heard about it all the time online, so it had to be fine. Right? Yeah, sure. Tilda, I can't believe my why Tilda. Hunger! The hounds in the crowd howled the line as the last cage rose up. Or at least, what remained of it. Which, honestly, wasn't a lot. Luna felt the rising heat in her nethers get quenched, and she covered her eyes with one hand. She sighed in resigned exasperation as her boyfriend lay on his side, his head propped by one hand and the other lowering the rest of the chain that probably once made up his cell into his mouth. She just had to accept that her doof had 3 brains, and no one could predict which one was going to dictate his actions. Not even him. At least he's good eye candy right now, she thought as she soaked in his clothes for the day. Clearly, he dressed himself without any input from someone else. He was wearing a sleeveless hoodie, dark blue shorts, and had tape wound around his hands to the edge of his forearm and around his feet to the base of his ankles. His left ear her chew toy flicked at the sound of cheering, and he opened his eyes before he sprang to his feet. He brandished the horns in each hand, and the crowd returned the favor. Hailing from the ring of gluttony, he weighs in at what is likely a generous if not extremely gross understatement. He is the Duke of Gluttony, the first fox fiend, Naru Elzebub. The butt announcer's words were met with a chorus of howls from hounds that attended, and one particularly loud one came from the box of sin. A glance and she saw B standing on her throne, 2 hands clapping wildly while the other 2 were in her muzzle, and she whistled. She almost laughed when she saw Vortex covering his face the same way she did not a moment earlier. Luna looked back at the arena and saw Naruto staring up in her direction. She felt her ears burn as she looked at the Jumbotron and SHT, shitty SHT. Don't let anyone else realize it, don't let anyone else realize it, don't let anyone else realize it. Yep, his eyes were locked on her. He pointed up at her and then at the screen. She glanced at the screen and read his lips when his mouth moved. I love you, and I'm coming up there for a boop after this. Even though her ears burned, they were pointed straight up and her tail started to swoosh swoosh swoosh. Yes, a boop sounded great. It's almost been 24 hours since the last one. That's 2F long. Ooh, romance in the air. I wonder what lucky little beach that exchange was for. Damn it. They were spotted. Oh, well, they had a sec tape already. This was nothing new. Loony. Blitzo sounded annoyed. Tough SHT. Your tail keeps hitting my leg. Deal with it. She crossed her arms as she smiled at her boyfriend's image on the Jumbotron as he turned back to look at his opponents. She let her tail wag unrestricted while his snapped about. Once this stupid thing was over, she was going to show every thirsty beach that wanted a piece of her boyfriend just who he belonged to. Vortex snorted at the little exchange he just saw. He'd give the little BSTRD this, he was smooth when he wanted to be. That was a great choice for a song. SHT, that was so effing cute, B cooed, now back in her seat and her chin propped up by 2 of her hands while the other 2 hugged her sides. She bit her lip as her wings gave a happy flutter and squirmed in her seat. Their vibes have got a taste in delicious Tilda. Babe. Vortex sighed beside her. They still had to talk about the THRSM thing. One of her hands conjured a foot-long hot dog and she flicked it into his lap. He barely caught it and sent her a frown. B. Just eat that and let me have this, Tex. It's not like it's sec. She waved him off and continued to grin and chew on her lip. His good eye went half-lidded. Yeah, it's not like it's sec. You're just lusting after your little brother and his girlfriend. Oh, leave her alone, Mr. Puppy Dog Pout. Vortex growled and glared past his ecstatic girlfriend at the smirking cyborg imp that sat in the Sin of Lust's lap. The little living sectoid grinned at him and twisted around to lay upside down. Turn that frown upside down. You play your cards right, and you might get lucky tonight. Stop teasing the poor guy, Fizzerolly. Lord Asmodeus chuckled. One of his heads turned to Vortex. Pay him no mind, he's just bored. Pay me no mind, I dare you to try, Fuzzy Wuzzy. Fizzerolly cackled and grinned at Vortex. Ooh, look at that scowl. So scary. I can be scary, too. His cybernetic limbs clicked ominously. Maybe your girl was right, and you should focus on the meat in your hands. Want me to show you how to make it disappear? Pass. I don't play with PP that overcompensate. Vortex deadpanned as he took a vicious bite out of the hot dog. A robot imp and a one-eyed hellhound bickering with each other before we watch the equivalent to a Rathian org. What a fun day. Lord Lucifer chuckled, which made Tex freeze. He forgot that the King of Hell was here. He also regretted not believing Naru-el-Zebub whenever he brought up Lucifer's height, or rather, the lack thereof. He shook his head and enjoyed the meal his girlfriend made him while the fight got started. Here we go. Bar our dukes. Impatience and hunger. Sir, can I get your word that you won't do anything underhanded? Trench asked, before he tossed a microphone that dropped from his hovercraft to the foxfiend. Naru-el-Zebub tapped the mic and held it to his mouth. Let me see if I got this right. He sniffed and scratched his cheek. A claw pointed at the sinner. You want me to fight fair in a no-holds-barred to the death match? Is that right? Is that what you just asked me? No. No, baby bro, don't do it. B grabbed her head and the arms of her throne strong enough to crack the ladder. Sinner cheating wad, SHT. Oh, Naru baby. Lord Asmodeus rubbed his face. He just can't resist. This has got to be the greatest day. No, wait, Charlie's BRTH was the greatest. This is the second greatest day in my life. Lord Lucifer grinned maliciously. He rubbed his hands together and grabbed his cane. He stood atop his throne and dropped the cane down to the arm. It bounced back up as a modified microphone. Is that a stipulation I hear? A little clause to add to this arrangement? Lord Lucifer, sir, it's an honor to be addressed by... Yeah, play with your beaner, gimp face, I'm talking to the walking rug. Lucifer chuckled. Vortex blanched. Did he seriously just call him? Wow, he owed Naru-el-Zebub an apology. Lucifer totally wasn't but. The King of Hell was grinning like a maniac. So, tell me, Naru-el-Zebub, do you want to make it official? Are you going to fight fair? Lucy, B snarled and started to get spicy. What the FR? SHH, it's all part of a plan, B. So, do me a solid and shut the F up. Lord Lucifer hissed at her through a smile as he covered his cane-turned microphone. Vortex felt the same hot anger he always felt whenever someone disrespected his girl, that someone was usually her brother, and then stopped. If he did anything right now, he was dead. The King of Hell uncovered his microphone and laughed. So what do you say, kiddo? Are you gonna fight fair? You wanna prove how badass you are? The cameras focused on the Duke in the arena. His ears were ramrod straight and his tail wriggled. He scratched his neck. Gimme a minute to think about it. Clock's ticking, Lord Lucifer grinned. Oh, SHT. Something was wrong. B was whining. B never whined. Vortex tossed his hot dog in his mouth and got up to stand at her side as she trembled and muttered to herself. She grabbed her head and curled up. Babe, what's? I don't know the plan. I don't know the plan. I can't help him if I don't know the plan. She whispered quickly and softly. Her hand grabbed his wrist and manic red eyes looked into his. Lucy monopolized him all day today. This is the first time I've seen him since he sent word about Belieth's dead brat. They made a plan, and I wasn't involved. That's bad. Babe, why would Lucy need a plan involving one of my souls and not tell me about it? Vortex failed to find an argument. In that time, apparently, Naru-el-Zebub found his own words. Yeah, sure, why the F not? Baby bro, B roared just as Lord Asmodeus grabbed his center head. Naru baby. Yeah, that's what I'm effing talking about. Lord Lucifer pointed down at the fox fiend, and a bolt of red lightning shot out of his finger. The fox fiend was sent back into the far wall, and Lord Lucifer laughed before he sat down on his throne. Good luck winning this fight without any magic or demonic power. Gimp face, start the fight. No magic or demonic power, HM? Yes, he should do well. And if not, the champion smirked. Well, I'll just make a grand appearance. A daring, heroic rescue. What the F? Luna whispered as her wagging tail curled around her leg. There was a thick cloud of debris around her boyfriend's impact zone, so she couldn't see him. Couldn't smell. Where's the log? He's got to explode into logs, right? Right? He's fine. He survived an angelic bullet. But that was something from F. Lucifer, she thought as she bit down a wine. Her legs were pulled up onto her seat and she hugged them. He's going to be fine. He'll win and come up here and give you a boop. F yeah, that's what Daddy likes to see. Blitzo applauded wildly. He cupped a hand around his mouth and pumped his fist. Let's hear it for King Lucifer, huh? Lucifer, Lucifer, Lucifer's HT. No one else is cheering. I believe they want to see if this is still a four-way fight or if one competitor was knocked out. Stolas said. Yeah, F understatement, birdbrain. Luna wanted to know where the F her boyfriend was and if he was still among the living. Alright, we all heard our evil lord's order. Steve, drop the goddamn cages and get me the F out of here. The cages around the three other fighters dropped. They stared at each other and then looked at the cloud of dust. Then back at each other. Then they looked at the weapon rack. They ran for it and grabbed various weapons. The succubus chose a WHP, the ghoul a spear, and the sinner snagged a massive mallet. Well, if you chuckle FS ain't gonna go eat the blighter, I effin' will. Go right ahead, big boy. I'll watch your back. The succubus tittered. She means she'll WHP you the second you turn your back on her. We need to work together to take her down. The androgynous Jean sneered. Oh, double teaming on me? Please, be gentle. It's been so long. Anya purred and cracked her golden-tipped WHP. F it, the dead body ain't going anywhere. I'll eat it after I kill you F, he growled. He took one step and vanished in a flash of light. The mallet he held dropped to the ground. Anya and Jean stared at it and then at the fox fiend that twirled the Morningstar Access Pass wristband on his finger. What are we eating? I wanted to ask, but he didn't seem like the talking type. Gang up on the Duke? Jean asked the succubus as they started to float up. I still have dibs on his D. Anya grinned as she spread her wings. The fox fiend looked between the two and tossed the wristband aside. He rolled his neck from one side to the next. A loud series of cracks rang out. He stretched his arms across his chest one before the other and then loosened up his hips and legs with a Cossack squat. Before we get started, he grunted as he went to the other side. Any chance either of you will let me get hold of that shiny dagger hanging there? You know, so we can make things fair. The ghoul ghosted through the weapon pillar with their spear ready and the succubus glided around it. The answer was plain as day, not happening. The Duke of Gluttony nodded with a small laugh and popped back to his feet. He rolled his shoulders once and shook his arms out before he stomped down on the mallet's pole grip, snapped it off, and he kicked the mallet's head into his awaiting claws. That's fine. I'll just use this, brick. Naruto tossed the head up and let it tumble in the air before he caught it again. He grinned at his two opponents. So, who wants to go second? So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 10. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author BonesBoy15 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.